in Berserk, there's cause and effect, and in Demon Hunter, it was shock value because they knew certain things made people feel uncomfortable. They knew that certain subject matters or certain things, they make people viscerally react. And so if you're doing that cheaply, well, the people will react badly. But if you're doing it honestly and just kind of showing it for what it is, you should be okay. And if people don't resonate with it, then that's not really your problem. All you can do is create it and put it out there. If people react with it, hey, great. If they don't, well, you can't control that. So don't worry about it too much. Just deal with the rough stuff honestly, and don't. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You can make your own decisions, but you can deliver rough information in a way that's mature without talking down to people and without making them feel like, oh, you understand it so much better than they do. You like, for example, again, I go back to Berserk. The amount of horrific stuff that happened in Berserk, and at no point did Miura even do a single interview about any of it. He just kind of let it fly into the sky, and you either resonate with it or you don't. So, at the end of the day, as a creator, it's not really your job to control how the audience reacts to something. As the creator, it's your job to create something and let them react. I hope that kind of sheds some light on that.
I guess because what I'm trying to do is the character, he has the love interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she's in a situation to where she has I'm gonna do like a coin flip where the character saves a love interest in time or gets there too late. She's assaulted, whatever, which will lead him into training because kind of failed in his his protector role. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Watch the movie The Crow.
Crow. Yeah, I seen that. Yeah. Okay.
So if you're watching a movie like that, you can take a lot of visual cue from something like that, or a lot of story cue from something like that, because very much Eric Draven. He was too late getting to Shelley, and she ended up dying because of Funboy and T-Bird and all those guys. So he then takes on the supernatural role of the vendetta, the guy who fucking saves the day post action. It's the same with Berserk. Guts couldn't get to Casca. It's the same thing. So it's down to your maturity and how you deal with it. Just look at it for what it is. Don't make it out like it's, there for shock value. Make sure that it's there for character development. Make sure that whatever happens to your characters has a reason and has a reason to be there and has a reason to conclude. Because if you just draw the same old thing, people are going to get bored, or they're going to start seeing the holes and things. So really just think about what you want to happen and imagine it from the perspective of, if you're a real person and you experience something like what you're going to write about, if you're in that position or in that situation, how then do you react, or how then do you respond? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. And I know keep saying one question, for one last question though. I guess marketing. I guess got tips on how can I push myself out there? My finally do get done with this I guess this pilot chapter. How can I just push it out so people, I guess, so people can actually see it?
Well, right here where you are is a good place to start. You've got, a whole bunch of people who are comic book enthusiasts. They like Spawn, so you can argue they like the dark stuff. Spawn's never shied away from the dark stuff. So you've got an audience right here. So if you're polite and you're honest and, you ask nicely if you want people to check out your work, when they do check out your work and they have criticism, you don't have to be rude about it, or you don't have to be again, don't take it personally. That's one thing that is very difficult as an artist to kind of separate yourself from. But if people have criticism, listen to it objectively and say, right, okay, there is actually something to this, and if not, if you're steadfast and you're like, no, I know what I'm doing, I got this, then you can say, okay, thank you for taking the time. It's all at the end of the day, if you're talking about marketing a book and you're making a story that you're serious about, then really it becomes a job. You become a salesman now all of a sudden. You're no longer the writer and the artist and the director. You're now the salesman too. So you want to be polite. The worst way to get people to take you seriously is to force them to take you seriously. You have to allow people to come to you as honestly and as openly as possible. So you just got to be, you got to be warm, welcoming. Like a good thing to check out, right? If you, I keep going back to Berserk, Jesus Christ, but if you look at any interview with Kentaro Miura, there's not many, so you don't have much homework to do in that regard. But if you look at the way he speaks to people, he's a really pleasant individual, and he makes people feel welcome. And if you build enough rapport with people, I mean, a great example is Todd McFarlane. Todd has an incredible reputation amongst his fans, as well as other peers and other comic book creators, because he does good work and he cultivates goodness amongst his fans. If you notice, like, he almost always signs off his posts with "be good." So he has a good reputation with people and he maintains it well. So ask people here, start your own social media and start posting about it and talking passionately about it. You'll be surprised how many people will start taking you seriously and start, really paying attention to you. And then if what you're doing is good, then that makes it even easier for them to follow you. So that would be my best advice, is to just start selling you as a person, as a creator, and why people should follow you. And then once your work is objectively good and undeniable, well, then you've got the really hard bits out of the way. So, yeah, it really comes down to, because like comics are different nowadays than they were. Comics are very, very different than what they were a few years ago. Back in say like the late 90s, early 2000s, all you needed to do was be able to draw and get lucky in putting your work in front of somebody. But nowadays, if you want your comics to be taken seriously, you've got to commit pretty much wholesale to comics. So I mean, getting your work seen here amongst your peers or whoever's here, starting social media and talking about it, start YouTube, start talking about it. And there's an old adage, like, if you're on stage, if you're doing theater or you're playing music or performing, if there's 5 people in the room, pretend like there's 500. You have to bring the same energy. I mean, I'm talking now, to how many? There's 41 people in this audience, which is awesome. But if there was 4, I'd still be talking the same way, because that's what everyone deserves. It's, everybody wants this thing of like, oh, I've got hundreds of thousands of followers and I've got all this fame, and well, every single one of those followers is an individual, and every one of those individuals wants to follow you. So you owe every one of them the same amount of energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
Cool. I'm trying to be as clear as I can while also paying attention to my drawing.
Yeah, I get you. Oh no, one more thing. About that,
Yeah.
the whole community thing. I'm trying to start like this whole like collab event thing. You know how like I kind of have imagined that to where artists were recommended come to like come to me for like collabs and stuff, and we could kind of like a whole, like the web structure, how it kind of just
Okay.
spreads out. So like let's say 15 artists, we do a collab, their audience, like the whole, we get exposure from different audiences and artists from them. From like let's say a couple account artists will come to us.
A rising tide raises all ships. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
and like it kind of just grows. Like let's say 2 artists from one account comes to us for the next collab event, and 2 artists from those 2 accounts come to us. Kind of just I comment like a spread out web.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. I mean, I did that over here in Ireland for years. We set up our own publisher called Raw Comics, and we were the only publisher that actively wanted new people to join us at all times, so that everybody's success happened as much as possible together. And so we all try to bolster each other up, and it also creates a healthy amount of competition where you're constantly keeping each other sharp. So that's a absolutely brilliant way of getting started. Now, the one thing I would say is be careful, because the more people you bring in, the more personalities, the more possible complications that come, because everybody is different. Everybody has a different point of view, a different perception. So just be careful not to overextend and to give too much away. You do want to kind of you want to expand and you want to do better, and that's great. But not everybody has the same commitment. Not everybody has the same goals. Not everybody has the same morals. So clearly you're very passionate about what it is that you're doing. So I would recommend you protect certain things. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, by all means, share and collaborate and be good with each other, but at the same time, don't give everything, because if you do, you'll be surprised. Like, I mean, I at the early points in my career, I gave everything to a lot of projects and I got burned pretty bad. So take my advice when I say that what sounds great at first may not be exactly that in practice, but that doesn't mean it should deter you from doing what it is that you're planning. So I would give you all the encouragement in the world, but proceed with caution, if you know what I'm saying.
I've been trying to do that, but I've been having some trouble. Like, for example, like drama between creators. So like, let's say I do like a piece, then the last person just backs off because they had like the two artists they know, two other artists, and there was some little mess between them. So then the project gets canceled. Or with this whole collab event, I've been talking to other people about. They were saying, well, I don't know how you're gonna get people to actually like stay and commit to it, because like not everybody really wants the exposure like how you're presented it.
Yeah,
So
look, what you're describing there is, one of the classic things. You can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. And that's going to happen, and you'll learn from it. And you'll get better at managing it the more you experience this stuff. So yeah, look, there's always going to be politics. There's always going to be, one person has one opinion, one person has another. The best that you can do, and as what I've always said to many, many people, which is, let your work do the talking. If somebody isn't willing to row in line, then just move on. Just move on. Just carry on regardless. I know it sounds counterproductive, but it is the truth. You can't delay all of your plans for everybody else to row in with you. You just kind of got to go and do it eventually.
yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kev. Thanks for the question, for answering my questions and all that.
What's your first name, dude?
Ta, just Tai.
Ty. It was great talking to you, man, and I really hope that it works out for you. But if you're on Instagram, shoot me a message sometime so I can keep an eye on your progress, because I'd like to see how you get on.
What's your Instagram? I'm
Uh,
pretty new to you, but like I can see that you're into like the whole you're already in the game already. So I'm like, shoot, let me just
yeah.
bombard this with questions
You're
real quick.
all good, dude. I'm Kevin Keane, illustrator, on Instagram.
Oh, so it's just okay. Okay, I get it.
My name followed by illustrator. You can't miss it. It's the same logo as on screen right now.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm about to look it up now. Definitely want to shoot you a follow.
Yeah, rock and roll, bro.
Yeah. I'll just send you a message of my profile pic if you're interested. But yeah, thanks again, man.
My pleasure, dude. My pleasure. Best of luck with it. All right. It's a tough road, but it's worth it if you can stick the landing.
Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I guess because I am trying to be like a creator, but
Yeah.
the way how I'm headed now, I got different like job roles. Like for example, my dad's he's running he's making up this company and he wants me to run it. And also
Mhm.
I got I also want to travel the world and all that. I just got all these different things that it's different responsibilities.
Okay.
But
What age are
I
you?
do I'm 16.
You're 16, dude. You got a lot of time in front of you. Okay. So, all right. When I was your age, when I was 16, I insulated attics. Okay. So I was driving about an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day to the opposite side of my county where I live. And I was going up into people's houses, into their attics with like three other dudes, and working with fiberglass insulation all day. So and all I wanted to do was draw. But working jobs like that, it builds your character, and it kind of proves to yourself how much you really want it. So you've got nothing but time. You don't have to worry about committing your entire life to one thing right now. You know, if your dad wants you to go work with him, go get some experience. Go get some life experience. Because I mean, I didn't commit to comic books full time until 2013, which is 10 years ago. So I was 22. Okay? So
Yeah.
you've got time on your side. Go get some experience. Never lose that urge, right? That want to go and make comics. Absolutely, pursue that. But I would absolutely suggest that you go get some real lived experience out in the world too, because you'll be surprised how much it'll teach you and how much it will give you in terms of managing people and situations. So, and if you want to go travel, go do that. Again, I lived in California when I was 20, when I was 21, 22. You know, and like I'm from the south of Ireland, but I moved to the big capital city. You know, would be the equivalent of maybe living in I don't know, maybe say Arkansas and then moving to New York. You know, that's what I did. And I got some life experience there as well. So you've got time. So don't go rushing into anything. Take your time and let life teach you some skills, and then apply that to your work, because there's no such thing there's no such thing as a successful artist who stayed in all the time. You know, as artists, as creators, our job is to go out into the world and kind of take a look at things from our perspective, because 9 times out of 10 artists view the world a little differently than most people. It's just kind of the curse of the job. And how you choose to relay that information is really down to your wants and abilities in your craft. So don't be worrying about all the things that you got going on right now, because by the time you hit 22, you're going to have a hell of a lot more time for you. Right now, I would say get some experience and then figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get you. It's like the stories I want to do. Like the story I'm working on now. It's not even the main story. It's not even like my love child story. You feel me?
Hmm.
But that I realized that story, like the main, like my main baby story that I really want to create, it's going to require me to have like a lot of experience, because I want to cover a lot of themes in it that I really don't know much now. Like that's what
Yeah,
the each
you know,
character, that's
at
what its
16,
foundations or subjects I don't even really know much about.
like I mean,
I
dude,
kind of already created this
at,
world for him and all that.
at 16, I mean, and I mean this in the nicest way, because I mean, look, I was 16 too, and I truly thought I had the world figured out at 16. At 16, there ain't really a whole pile you know a lot about, even though you know you sound like a smart kid, you sound like a very, very, switched on individual, so you should do fine in life, no problem. Um, so you've got that going for you. I was much the same. I was very switched on, and I was very committed to what it was that I liked and what I wanted to do. Um, so what I would say to you is, uh, keep your stories, keep writing them, keep working on them. You know, never lose sight of what it is that you want them to be. Um, but at 16, you don't have enough life experience to really comment on certain things unless they've happened directly to you. And even then, you still don't have the kind of, I guess you could say, the maturity to rationalize them in a way that a wide scale audience would resonate with. And I mean that in the best way, because when I was 16, I understood so much, but there was no way I could relay that correctly to people 10 years older than me. Not yet, And once I reached maybe 23, 22, 23, I was way better at articulating that stuff. So it became easier, and it became easier then to get credibility. People started paying more attention to what I was saying because it sounded more honest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I get you. Yeah,
But
thanks.
you're on your way. You're on your way, man.
Yeah,
You're on your way.
yeah. I just follow you, so I see you. I
Oh,
hit
cool.
you up in the chats on my profile pic.
Rock and roll, dude. Great chatting with you.
Thanks for coming up, Ty. Got some cool insight into how to approach a comic book creation. Thank you for that,
That's not, yeah, no problem. I mean, it's not even half of it, but sure.
Kev. Wow, this is looking badass so far.
Yeah, as I said, I'm trying to make my version of Spawn a bit gnarlier and a bit creepier, a bit cooler. I like drawing the classic costumes, the Todd style costume and the Greg style costume. But in the last little while, I've been kind of getting more of an itch to just kind of cut loose and see where my randomness in line work just takes me. So it's more fun this way sometimes.
I was seeing earlier that during your sketch, you're flipping the image quite a bit.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about it in the past, but you want to remind me again what you were doing that for?
Yeah, it's when you flip an image, you're resetting your, I guess, your perception of it, your eye. So when you draw from, like, say now, like Spawn's head is kind of tilted this way and down. So when you're drawing it from one side all the time, what you're not seeing sometimes, because you're so focused on the details and what's being put in, what you're not seeing is that sometimes, the eye could be up here and you haven't realized it, or the eye could be down here and you've not realized it, and you realize it a little too late, and now all of a sudden you've got a whole lot of work to do to fix it. So when you flip the image, you're just making sure everything is balanced and correctly sitting naturally, rather than being distorted, because it's heartbreaking if you've put in a load of work and all of a sudden you realize it's all lopsided or gone wrong.
Smart.
It's just something that every professional artist must do. It's not even something you do consciously anymore. After a certain point, you just get so used to it. It's like a very basic rule of thumb.
Are you planning on making this? Doing? I remember the last piece you did. You wanted to experiment with colors, and I think they came out fantastic. Are you just?
I had a great time. Yeah, I had a great time with those. I'm not going to color this one the same. I might put some, if I have time, I'll put some gray on it maybe. But no, this one's going to be more, I guess you could say, classic comic book.
Classic Kevin Keane style.
Yeah, what I'm known for, that crazy black and white stuff. But no, this is it's good fun to kind of just let the lines do the talking a lot of the time, not worry about any special effects or anything. I'll do all that later. Actually, I got a brand new. I built a new brush the other day. I'm dying to try it out, so I might at the end put some cool effects on this using that. So stay tuned.
So have you been watching any movies or shows recently that stood out?
Um, Off the top of my head, I've been watching a lot of. I mean, this will show my commitment to this community and to this whole thing. Is I'm actually missing the F1 right now, because
The
I
F1 race right now?
yeah, the Mexican Grand Prix, the qualifying is on in 2 minutes,
Dedication.
and I chose to be here instead. I'm a diehard F1 guy, so I've been following the F1 pretty closely lately.
Go team.
I kind of, I want to say no, but I do. I do support. If I put a gun to my head, I'll support McLaren and
Okay.
and Mercedes. Um, but I follow drivers more so. It's the same with comic books. I mean, I don't particularly have a preference of publisher, but I will follow creators. Like if Greg Capullo or Ryan Otley or Matteo Scalera said they were working on My Little Pony in the morning, I'd collect it. Um, so I'm kind of like that. I would look at the McLaren and Mercedes drivers as the guys I would look at most. There's a new kid there from Australia, Oscar Piastri. He's awesome.
I'm assuming you watched that Netflix show then.
Drive to Survive. Yeah. It got me back into Formula One, believe it or not. It's because of that show. It was like near the end of 2021 that my girlfriend and I started watching it, because I had heard it was quite good. I know a lot of the diehard F1 people were like, "Oh, it sucks. It's this. It's that." Ah, fuck off. If I want to enjoy something, I'll enjoy it. So
Yeah, it brought a lot of people to the sport.
yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It did an incredible. Like, you see, I grew up with F1 here in Ireland because my dad owned a bar, and he had, back then, what you guys would call cable. That was very rare here, very rare, and my dad in the bar, because it was a work expense, he was able to have all of the sports from across the world in the bar. So, what you'd consider, I guess, a cliched Irish bar, like an old man pub or dive bar. My dad was like one of the first people to have like a sports bar, and so there was always boxing. I mean, over here it's largely soccer. You'll see the Premier League and English football almost everywhere you go. But in my dad's place, it was, you'd get boxing, you'd get Formula One, you'd get football and all that. So growing up, I was always watching Formula One. So Drive to Survive actually brought me back.
Kevin, have you seen the Senna movie or the Michael Schumacher documentary on Netflix?
I've not seen the Michael Schumacher documentary, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, I really don't like Ferrari, and number two, I really don't like Michael Schumacher. So I wouldn't be the biggest fan of him. And not for any like personal reasons or anything like that. But I think he was an incredible driver, but I would argue he wasn't the cleanest driver. So I didn't go for that. But Ayrton Senna, yeah, I mean that guy's the GOAT. He was an inspiration and an incredible talent. So what was it? If you don't go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver.
But you agree, Michael Schumacher is one of the best drivers out there, or was?
Oh, easy. Oh, no doubt about it. Oh, absolutely. Michael Schumacher was incredible. Michael Schumacher. If I'm looking at it objectively, Michael Schumacher was what everybody wants to be. But he was ruthless in that he would. And again, I mean, it's apples and oranges because they all do it. But Michael Schumacher was not afraid to bend the rules, or he was not afraid to do some trickery if it meant he won. Now, again, you can argue the morals of that all day long until the cows come home. But at the end of the day, he got the win. So you can't really argue with that. Whatever about your personal feelings, you can't deny the man is an absolute phenom.
Oh, it's such a ruthless sport, though. They're literally like their teammates trying to take their job from them. So it's like super ruthless.
Yeah, and it's always been that way. And it's the most competitive motorsport in the world for a reason. It's the highest level of everything. You're moving at the top speeds, you're moving at the most intense G's. It's just crazy. So but yeah, what kind of turned me off Michael Schumacher? Because I when I was younger, I did actually have a lot of support for Ferrari. I really liked Ralf Schumacher, his brother. I thought Ralph was an excellent driver. But what turned me off Michael Schumacher was when he won a world title from the pit lane. That really pissed me off, and they actually changed the rules in the course that happened on, so that now that particular pit has a slower pit speed than any other in all of F1. He drove into the pit lane on Silverstone. I don't know what year it was, but he ended up winning the title because the pit lane had a shorter route across the line than the actual main route because of all the turns. So he ended up, I won't say stealing because that's not the right word, but he ended up, let's just say, bending the rules so that it ensured he won. And that pissed me off. So other than that, though, again, I would never take anything away. His son is now driving as well, or was. He's currently a reserve driver for Mercedes. But Mick Schumacher, he's definitely one to watch as well.
All right, last question on this. What was your opinion on what happened to Lewis Hamilton with losing the title to Max Verstappen there?
Like I'm gonna speak very honestly. That really pissed me off. That really pissed me off because what happened, even if you're a Max Verstappen fan, if you're an honest Max Verstappen fan, you're pissed off about that too, because essentially the FIA created a scenario in which Max couldn't lose. That's what happened. It's not that Lewis was, I mean, Lewis was robbed. He was absolutely robbed. But and Max did exactly what I said about Michael Schumacher. They're ruthless. They will do whatever it takes to win. It's that simple. So I can't really vilify Max because he was doing what any driver would do. But I would say the FIA should have been gotten rid of immediately after that happened, in my opinion. That was. I still struggle to even even watch it to this day because of how annoying. Because when it stops being fair, I get really pissy. I like to let the drivers. I like to see the drivers fight it out on the track. I do not like to see anything else getting in the way of that, if that makes sense. Because
Up until that point when that happened, that season was amazing though. Up
it
until
was
that happened.
oh my god, it was the most exciting year of Formula One ever, no doubt about it. It was amazing. Like going into the last race of the season with 5 points between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and a dead even tie between Red Bull and Mercedes. Like you couldn't write that and make it believable. So absolutely, that was phenomenal. I loved that.
Have you been to any of the races?
No, I haven't. I've never been. I've been talking about it with a friend of mine pretty much weekly at this point. About going. We're trying to pick which one. It's funny actually. I'd say up until about maybe 2 years ago, everybody over here would basically say that the only tracks worth watching are the European tracks because that's where it started. That's its home, its heritage. But I absolutely love the Texas track. They only raced there last week, and I think it's in Austin, but it's in COTA, and it's essentially like the American Silverstone. Silverstone, you could argue, is the best track in all of Europe.
I disagree with you on the best track. I think it's Spa.
Well, I mean, again, it's down to your personal preference. I think
Yeah.
objectively, Silverstone is the most challenging for the most speed, but Spa is just absolutely mad. It's just amazing. It's one of the greatest experiences you will have watching cars going that fast. I mean, the Eau Rouge uphill turn is
Correct.
insane.
Yes.
You're going up a winding chicane at 210 kilometers an hour. That's insane. But it's cool. I like hearing the American accent talking about Formula One. That's awesome.
Oh, I've been watching it since I got into it when I was in college. I would stay up till 2 a.m. to watch it on Speed Channel.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I mean, like I kind of feel a kindred spirit here a little bit because I used to do the same with UFC. I'd stay up until, I mean, my brother and I would stay up until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning just to watch even a fight night back in the day. So I get it. I really get it. Like we committed so hard to that.
What's going on, Texas Red?
What's going on, fellas? Kevin, thanks for joining us again, bro.
My pleasure, dude. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate you doing this for us yet again. First time was a blast, and we're looking forward to it again.
Awesome.
I had a few questions pertaining to, I was kind of curious in regards to your artistic style and how it translates to other types. Let's say, for instance, canvas, charcoal, oil, water, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to kind of, just pick up the canvas and do a oil painting?
You're breaking up on me there a little, dude. I can't really make out what you're saying. Sorry. There's a bit of delay, I think.
Yeah, I was asking pertaining to, going to other methods like charcoal and oil painting and water on canvas. How
Mhm.
are you? Does your artistic style transfer over?
I mean, to a degree, yes. I mean, I have my preferences. I've used pretty much every medium there is. And I've always found that I just have the most fun with ink. I think there's a fair amount of challenge with ink. I think you're kind of, I mean, I work digitally just to allow myself, a little bit more freedom, but with ink, you're kind of committed from the jump. As you can see, like I don't have any, like if you look down here, like I don't have any anatomy drawn. I'm just going to figure it out when I get there. But with like I like watercolor a lot. I think watercolor is great fun. I work mostly digitally because that's what my career is. I've got to turn artwork around very quickly. So, I when I was in college, I liked working with oil, much and all as a pain in the ass oil can be. I did enjoy it because it's it's as close to painting with clay as you can get. So that was good fun. But yeah, like when I was growing up, I would have used a lot of different media just to kind of get a feel for, you know, what I preferred or what was most fun. But for the style that I'm known for, the heavy blacks and whites and contrasting images, I just prefer it in ink. I could do it with watercolor, but I don't know would it translate the same. You know, I don't know would it feel as like when I zoom in, like, you know, you can really see the intensity on his scowl, you know, as I add more lines to it and build it all up. With watercolor, if I was to, I don't know, if I was to take an actual watercolor brush here, you know, if I was to just turn off the underlayer drawing and try and recreate this in a watercolor brush digitally, like this is a kind of a bizarre example, but you can see almost already the same quality ain't there. So I would have to approach this differently. I would probably have to work a little differently in the structuring of it. So you can see it's more a case of building up values rather than building up lines. So kind of just have to adjust your stance, and you can kind of make it work. You know, it's not night and day, but it's not as sharp. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah.
as sharp or as stark.
Yeah,
so-
you don't get those fine details, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you see the other thing as
You
well.
think
is
you'd be
it-
able to do that with charcoal?
Yeah, I mean, charcoal and ink are very close to each other. Charcoal is a touch softer, so it's a little bit more forgiving. So, but yeah, you would get the same sort of result from charcoal as you would ink. In certain respects, yeah, they're very closely related.
Texas, I think you're breaking in and out quite a bit. You were trying to say something there.
It's still breaking up on you, dude.
You going through a tunnel?
Yeah. Hey, that's a-
Texas, man.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Got you now. Gremlins happens all the time.
I got nothing. Texas, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Yeah, I can hear you guys now.
Yeah, I got you.
Something.
Yeah, I'm on my mobile.
Oh, okay, that would make sense.
Fix the damn Discord, Remy.
Yeah, my bad. Fix your internet.
God damn it, Remy.
You got to get that Starlink, dude.
Yeah.
If this is your way of trying to get me off stage, I'm not getting off, Remy. So figure it out. Fix
No, she spawn's giving me some OCT to get you off stage, actually.
And you get if you had a personal Yelp, I would give you 0 stars right now.
A
Rude.
damning review.
Yeah, what an insult. 0 stars? Not even a 1?
So it was bad from jump.
Yeah, there was no good parts.
As in, like, nothing was redeemable. Like, from the beginning, it was bad. Jesus.
All right, I switched over to my phone instead of Bluetooth. Is that better?
Much. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Way to fix it, Remy. No thanks to you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Kevin, what I was asking is, do you work on commissions? So what I was curious about is if I was to send you a blank gunslinger comic, are you able to do one on the comic and then do like an oil or a charcoal identical to it? And then perhaps do an NF version of that so I could have all 3?
That would be one hell of an undertaking. I'm going to say no.
Yeah,
I'm going to say no to an oil because I don't work with oil enough to be confident enough to give you your money's worth. But ink definitely. Charcoal, not so much. Again, these are media. You're asking a, I guess you could say you're asking a boxer to do kickboxing Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu at the same time. You know, so
Yeah, I think you've got a countryman that does that. His name is Conor McGregor.
yeah, and he's an asshole, and he sucks at all of them. So I'd rather give you something that was worth it. So I could do ink and I could do graphite, is in like pencil, very easily. But I'm not gonna say yes to charcoal or oil, because I couldn't in right mind give you something that I didn't feel was up to scratch.
And the
I'm
same
not.
thing with on the watercolor.
Again, these are things that I would need to spend time developing, and I don't, unfortunately don't have the time right now to do
Are
so.
you able to do? Are you able to do ink on canvas?
Um, ink on, yeah. I mean, I could, but again, like, you're. It's not really where I specialize.
Because
Again,
what I would love to get is like put something. I would love to put something in a really nice frame, put it on the wall, and then the comic right underneath it, and I would have the digital version of it all.
sure. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Again, I'd love to say yes to you, dude. I really would. I'd love to be able to just say yes, absolutely, let's do it. But unfortunately, I can't. Um, but because I specialize in certain areas, because I only have so much time in the day. I work on so many different projects all at the same time. So
Yeah, I hear you.
you know,
Well, if I wanted to reach out and just get some commissions done on,
sure.
how do I reach out to you?
So you can contact. So if you got like a pen, or you can type this down. Can contact my representation, jeffmart.com. So that's GEOFFMART.com.
So that's GEOFFMART.com.
Yeah, jeffmart.com.
Jeff M. Art. Yeah. Okay.
They,
Well,
they look after my commissions and stuff like that. My aim actually is, before the end of the year, I want to take a kind of a nice big commission list, and work on a whole bunch of characters and things like that. So, if you're looking to get it done this side of Christmas, it would be good to put your name in. I haven't
Well,
announced anything yet, but
what are you trying to take in? Like comics or prints, custom one-of-one prints? What exactly are you?
original artwork and digital artwork. So, if you wanted an original piece on a big piece of paper, all singing, all dancing with inks, then I'll be doing that, and I can do digital. There's no problem.
Are you able to do do a print like that and then do the same one on a comic, so I could have matching, so I could send it in to see? And also, my other question is do you have a CGC account where you can directly send a comic from your end?
I don't know. I don't really deal with CGC. I've had books go to them, but I've not dealt with CGC myself personally. But again, dude, it comes down to what you request. It comes down to what you request. If you put it in with Jeff, what you'd like, I can talk with him, and I can figure it out with what's available time wise for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I don't want to hijack the session here, so I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the Discord for giving me this opportunity to ask some selfish personal
Not at all,
requests.
dude. Not at all.
Hey, man,
No,
your
that's what I do.
art is top notch, and we really appreciate you. Genuinely appreciate you doing this for us. We're big fans, and we can't thank you enough.
Hey, dude, it's my pleasure, genuinely.
All right, brother. Be well. I'm gonna get off the
Likewise.
stage.
You take care, all right, man?
Yeah, man.
Thanks for coming up, Texas.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
I expect a 2-star now.
You got it, man.
Minimum.
We'll leave the 0 stars. We'll leave the 0 stars to Jake.
Whoa. After you just got married? Come on. Gotta give him a 5-star for his wedding.
None of us were invited. I would have went too.
It's true. Makes you feeling better. I wasn't invited either.
Hey, so next time I'm in Arizona, I'm gonna hit you guys up.
You come to Arizona often?
Yeah, I got family out there. I was just there for a wedding.
Nice.
Yeah, I did not know you guys were going to school over there.
Yeah, I just transferred. This is my first semester here, so
Yeah, man, yeah, that's cool. All right. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
catch you,
Rock
Texas.
and roll, dude.
Pink.
Dick.
Kevin, would you do a CGC signing?
Yeah, if it was set up, sure.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Thanks for asking that, bro. Yes.
Would you mail the book to you? You don't even have to leave your house.
I mean, yeah, shit. If I don't have to go anywhere, even better.
I heard that from another artist, so I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to that stuff. If it was easily done, sure.
You just need.
I think a
you
lot
just
of people
need
would settle for that.
somebody with a license for witnessing, Kevin. Maybe some of your local comic book shops over there have that
Yeah,
sponsor.
I got one or two guys. All right, they live a good while away though. I mean, there's no comic book shop where I live. I'd have to get one of the guys down from Dublin, and if that was easily facilitated, sure, no problem. I would gladly do something like that. But Ireland's infrastructure is not even 0.5% of what you guys have over there. So it's a little trickier to organize certain things like that over here. But yeah, I absolutely would. I'd totally be game.
Welcome to stage, Matt. Nick.
Hey, Kev, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Matt, how are you, dude?
I'm good. I'm good. How's everything going, bud?
Yeah, so far so good, man. Still breathing.
Still breathing. Still breathing. I got a question. This is something that I forgot to ask one of the last times that you were on here. And out of everything that you've done over the course of your entire career, is there something, some page, some cover, some piece of work that you've done over your entire span of doing this that you can say, I would put that in, say, my top 3 or top 5, whether it be from Spawn or Gunslinger, whatever the case, whatever your work. Is there something that's always just kind of stood out to you? Maybe something posted online that you've always just been like, you know what? That's definitely a part of my top 5 of some of the favorite things I've ever created.
Yeah, I got a couple of those. Yeah, I've got a couple of those. In terms of you see, I'm kind of weird in that I'll sometimes put more value on just a drawing that I love. Like I'm weird, right? I know a lot of people are like really heavily committed to, the comic books grind, and
For sure.
and just putting out pages and pages and pages of work, and like obviously all the respect in the world if you're getting it and you're able to do it, fine. But for me, I can put as much stock in a drawing I did on a Sunday, here on my own, just hanging out, as I can to a cover that's sold a couple of thousand copies, or a lot of copies, that kind of thing. So I don't have any like one, but I can give you like maybe 4 or 5. My Haunt cover for the Scorched.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a dynamite one.
Yeah, I loved how that one turned out. That was one of those days where everything just came together and it worked.
Yeah.
I did a random just one. I think it was during the lockdowns. I just drew Deathstroke, and I just fell in love with that particular drawing. I just knew as soon as I finished that drawing, I'll never be able to draw that again. So take a quick drink of water. 1 second. In Kingspawn issue 23, I got to draw a really cool glory shot of Spawn as he catches Sam in midair, and he kind of just puts Sam down behind him, but it's just this really big image of Spawn. It's the kind of stuff that you dream you will one day get to draw if you get hired. And there's 2 Batman drawings that I've done that had kind of exploded my social medias. I did one of Batman, just he's in flight above the sky, but he's got this huge ridiculous cape. That one exploded. It got like, I think last I checked, it got like fucking 5 million views or something like that on Instagram. It was insane. you know, or something like that. Anyway, it was crazy. And there was one other Batman that I did, and it's just a drawing of Batman. It's just Batman standing there, you know. But I did this really nice drawing of Batman. I think I was in my dad's apartment, and I just sat on his couch and I just started drawing, and this just everything just flowed out of me. And yeah, I just love that particular Batman drawing. So I does that answer your question?
That's yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, the majority of the stuff that like we talked the last time, it's the majority of the stuff that you've always put out there has just been, especially the dark, sharp inks that you always have. It's so different from what you see because your style is so unique, and it's represented in such an amazing way that it's harsh on the eyes in a kick-ass style way. You know, it's there.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Amazing, right? And as we talked last time, as somebody that's colored it, you know, it's still up there as just the most fun that you can have, because it dominates the page to the point where it's almost easy for you to just fall in love with the work, to want to work on it, you know.
Dude, I'm blushing. Shit.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I appreciate that a great deal. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Matt. I mean, I've had a lot of people color my work. Had a lot of, and it's like, it's one thing that you're going to see is a kind of a common thread amongst comic book illustrators, is that sometimes they struggle to find a colorist that really does what they want. You know, that really does what they're visualizing in their head as cool, or as, you know, stylish, or XYZ. I've always liked your approach to coloring. Your approach to coloring is a very, very good one, in terms of not just delivering good information within the colors, but also pleasing the artist. Because I've seen people, like, I've had people request. I'm going to do some butchering here because this eye is annoying me. I've seen plenty of people try to color my work and screw it up, and really screw it up. And you know, and they are fully convinced that they've nailed it. Now, I'm not particularly. I'm pretty strict with colorists. I like to see certain things. Like, there's been times where you've sent me something and I've sent you back a note. Do you know? And it's not even that.
That Joker that you sent back, and you're like, hey, like, you know, these are the things that would change. And I respect the shit out of that, because that's what somebody needs coming up.
Well, exactly. It's not that you did anything wrong. It's that it would be better for the drawing if, and it's not even that it's not even that it's my necessary opinion. It's just simply down to the fact that this would objectively be better for the artwork.
Absolutely.
But like, then on the flip side of that, you know, there was one Batman that I did. He's like, his arms were folded, and it was just the cape draped from his elbows.
Yeah.
And I remember you sent me the colors you did, and like, I just immediately loved every choice that you made. You know, I just immediately loved it. And like, so I'll be every bit as quick to compliment the bits that you got right, as well as point out where things can improve. But again, my approach has always been, you know, the art comes first. It's not really down to my opinion. It's down to what works best to the viewer and what they get to see. And you know, your approach is definitely, your approach is that of a very subtle, you know, methodical approach of, you know, I don't need to over render every little detail. I can just put a subtle, you know, dark tone here. I can put a subtle glow or softness here. I mean, it's very difficult to color Brett Booth because of the amount of lines that he uses.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen your colors over Brett Booth's stuff, and your work elevates it, because
I appreciate the hell out of that.
Well, it separates things out. I mean, look, Brett Booth's colorist is Ivan Nunes, you know, and he's one of the best in the world, you know. I mean, Ivan colored my work on Kingspawn 23.
Yeah, dynamite. Oh my god.
And like, stunning, like truly magical, you know. And he renders everything, you know. He'll render the skin tones, he'll render the clothing, he'll render it all. And you know, it looks awesome to some artists. You know, that doesn't look so good, but to others it looks great. So I think it's down to, like, your type of coloring will suit my inks very well, because you're not rendering everything. You're letting the inks breathe. Whereas,
That's right.
other dudes who render the hell out of everything, sometimes it can get muddy and it can get distracting. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time. I've always said that. I've always appreciated you taking anybody who takes the time to color my work and does a good job. I'll always take the time to compliment them and let them know that I appreciate what they're doing.
That's one of the favorite things that over the course of, I guess, 5 years that I've been doing this is that when I have artists like yourself that come back and it's not, if you don't read the notes like an asshole, then the person's not coming off like an asshole, right? And you take it as constructive criticism.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head.
And that's the only way that you're really going to get better is you're open to people saying, you know what? Maybe if you just try something different instead of thinking, well, this is what it is, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be open and receptive to what the actual brain of the person that's putting it on the image wants you or envisions it a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, even the last time that we were talking on here, one of the biggest things that I drew away from that last conversation was anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And that struck a chord because, I'd always thought about for, getting into this and learning more a little bit about anatomy. And that last conversation we had actually on this Discord, I had taken to heart. And I had, really taken, even for myself, loving, biology when I was a kid and learning about anatomy and everything else like that. And just incorporating it to the coloring style that I have now and trying to adapt to it. It really, really struck home. So I've really tried to, and since the last time that we had that conversation was to adapt to that. And really start utilizing it to my advantage of, okay, well, that makes more sense of learning the basic anatomies of how skin would be, muscles would be. And I think, it's really given me a good game change. So I appreciate when you do stuff like this and put those little ideas out there for me to grab, or anybody for that matter.
Well, of course. I mean, you see, the thing is, right, I've always viewed learning, getting better at drawing, right? I've always viewed it like unlocking. You say you're in a maze, you're just unlocking doors, and you're just finding new, easier methods of doing the same thing, but quicker, more efficiently, and more loose, so that it has more life. One thing that a lot of colorists don't learn is anatomy, because they rely on the comic book artists to know the anatomy, and so. If the comic book artist doesn't have perfect anatomy, which let's be honest, most of them don't, because it's extremely hard to do. A lot of comic book artists, they get to a serviceable position and then they kind of just figure it out as they go. And, it's not a bad thing. Even Todd has said, you don't have to have perfect anatomy, just as long as you're within the ballpark and as long as it looks good. Even Mark Silvestri says the same thing. It's really not about realism, it's about what looks good. And as long as you're within the ballpark where you're not, okay, listen, we know the bicep is, one big chunk that sits on the front of your arm. You don't need to draw 600 fucking muscle groups,
Oh, gee.
So, with that in mind, if you're the colorist and you're looking to just kind of elevate the artwork properly, then you're going to let the artist do their thing and you're just going to put the attention where it needs to be and separate those elements out without distracting from it. And you do a very good job of that. And by learning the anatomy, of course, but I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. I would say, if it wasn't true, I would say, look, you got a bit more work to do, but I'm confident you're getting there. Like, you see so many people, and I get it all the time, where I get maybe not so much now because I've not been as active on social media because I've been so busy, but I used to get a lot of people contacting me saying, can I color your work? And I used to say, sure, by all means. And what I would usually do is I just direct them towards Twitter because the images are higher res, because I don't really have the time to go emailing everybody everything. But there are times where they'll send me back their work and they're like, I think this came out really good, what do you think? And I'm like, this is terrible. And it's not because you're terrible, that's not what I'm saying. You're not clear on the fundamentals yet. I'm happy to let you practice, and I'm happy to let you use my stuff because, as you say, my stuff's quite sharp, so it's easy for a colorist to kind of make the separations. But at the same time, I'm not here to teach you how to color either. And with you, it was very easy because anytime I would get the work or I'd get the colors back, I'd be like, yeah, I'd gladly share that. You know, there's been a load of your pieces that
Yeah.
I've shared. You know,
Which
the
has really.
Spider-Man hanging upside down and Batman's. And,
Oh Lord, yeah, yeah. Even those notes that you gave me for the eyes, how you said, just even just the smallest notes like that, where you're like, you know what, I love it, but can you try and work on the eyes on that black symbiote suit that I sent you back there? And you're like, the
Mhm.
eyes need to, and doing that change, you wouldn't think, there was a little bit on there, but you saying emphasize a little bit more. Well, you don't take it like you're being an asshole and you change it and it comes out in the most beautiful way possible because you're accepting somebody else's opinion that's outside of your own that can make something better. Right.
And now you've
And
learned
that-
now you've got a new element to your utility belt that you can draw
and the
upon at all
skill that you
times.
get. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So that was, I once again, Kev, I do have to get going here, but,
Yeah.
I just appreciate everything that you've done and all the advice, all the shit, everything to get me on the map there. And shit, man, it's been crazy cool to work on your work and chat with you and get that experience to help me improve where I need to improve. And I can't thank you enough every time I get a chance to talk to you.
It's genuinely my pleasure, and look. I mean, I've always said I've got into this whole career to make people happy. You know, I mean, comic books brought me so much joy, and art has brought me so much happiness down through my life that I just said if I can at least make one person's day better, then I know I've given back to an art form that's given me that same feeling. And it's kind of it kind of annoys me sometimes when I see people tiptoeing around comic book artists like they're these porcelain dolls or these Fabergé
Mhm.
eggs that will
Yeah.
split in half if you even say anything remotely regular to them.
Yeah.
I'm a dude who draws pictures. I mean, I would like to be able to hang out with everybody that likes comic books and at least likes artwork. I mean, it doesn't even need to necessarily be comics.
Yeah.
And have a good back and forth with them about the things that they like. So again, bringing joy to people. So the fact that I've been able to make your life a bit easier and give you some tips to help you on your way, my pleasure, and it always will be.
Perfect. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks you again for everybody putting this on, and we'll talk to you guys later, okay?
Rock and roll, brother. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for coming up, Matt. That's cool.
All right, we're getting there.
We're getting there. It's coming along.
Getting his hand to behave.
You been watching any of the UFC fights recently?
I watched last week's event. I've kind of gone off the UFC a little bit. It's turning into a freak show.
It's definitely getting a little weird.
It's turning into a freak show, man. It's like they're taking too many cues from fucking boxing. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's annoying because I always watched the UFC because it was real fighting, whereas now it's just all social media shit talk. And then when they show up, I mean, I love Volkanovski, right? I love the guy. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a great champion. But he should not have taken that fight on short notice. He just shouldn't have. That was fucking stupid. It's like, I get it. You want to fight Islam again. I get it. You want to fight the guy because you think you can beat him. That's awesome. But he's a weight class bigger than you, and he's been training non-stop. You were training for a different guy and you jumped the gun. Same thing happened with Masvidal and Usman. He took the fight too early and Usman just steamrolled him.
Yeah.
Overconfidence.
Overconfidence.
And just, I think, again, just media hype and the fairy tale and the story. And it's like, fucking hell, people, like,
They're
stop.
getting more dramatized. They're adding like a WWE effect. They
Yeah.
bring some flair to it when you just are there for real fighting.
It's something I'm noticing more and more, particularly in American sport, is this kind of adherence to the fact that there needs to be a story attached to everything. But the reason the greats in your American sports history are great is because most of them kind of just came out of nowhere. Like Michael Jordan was not telegraphed. Michael Jordan came out of nowhere. He literally just showed up at North Carolina, absolutely killed the game to the point where he got up to the big leagues of NBA and then just took over the sport, you know? And
Tom Brady.
sorry?
Tom Brady did the same thing for football.
100%. You know, Tom Brady did the exact same thing. I mean, you could argue probably Wayne Gretzky for hockey in Canada. And then you've got like, you know, even if you look at UFC, Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell was like, by today's standards of UFC, Chuck Liddell is a drunk dude at a bar who's got a hell of a right hand in terms of technical fighting. You know, let's be fair. Like, I've trained with Chuck, right? And it's not that impressive. You know, it's a really tough dude. Like, there's no, like, Chuck Liddell's talent is his unbelievable strength and his ridiculously long arms. It's insane. It's freakish. But, you know, technically speaking, put Chuck at his height next to John Jones at his height. I'm sorry, but what are we doing? It's not even the same sport anymore, if that's what you're talking, if that's, you know, if that's the road you're going down. But nowadays it's like they need to kind of deliver this fairy tale of like they came from nothing and turned it around into everything. And it's like they did that with Conor McGregor as well. And it's like to Irish people trying to sell that story as a fairy tale, it felt so disingenuous over here, especially. And I know a couple of people who bought into it, and afterwards they were so disappointed. It was like, you bought into the hype. Like, at the end of the day, this is fighting. It comes down to who beats the other person, you know?
Yeah. Do you watch the One Championship ever?
And not as much as I should.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't, and I like One FC a lot. Like, I just want to say as well, those motherfuckers made out like bandits with that deal getting Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren. Like, talk about playing Dana White, like, because they did, like, I'm sorry, that was not a fair deal. Like, not even a little bit. Like, that clown came over and just made a fool out of himself every fight versus, you know, Mighty Mouse arguably being the greatest for his size ever, you know?
I like the One Championship because there's like none of that hype BS around it. It's pure fighting, and you get to see all different styles, which is
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
that's why it's some of the most entertaining fighting to watch, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Oh, I completely agree. I mean, One FC is almost like, you know, it's almost harkening back to the old days of UFC, like back in the very, very beginning. You know, when it was just, I guess you'd say, martial arts discipline mixed in together rather than, you know, MMA as in wrestling and kickboxing.
Kevin, I know a lot of artists who have been on here talked about their issues with like drawing hands, or not issues, but just like different ways about drawing hands and the complexities with it. This is a pretty like a unique pose. How difficult do you find these hands to draw?
Not very. I'm just being precious about getting them right because I just want them to look cool for the collectible, and stay, you know, consistent. These hands are pretty easy. You know, I've drawn these a couple of hundred times. It's just when you're drawing them as claws, you want to make sure that the points, these points on his fingers, you want to make sure that they stand out, but not be, you know, stupid. So it's kind of like it's just kind of creating subtlety. That's what I'm spending time on here. I don't particularly find hands hard to draw. I've heard a lot of people say the hands are very difficult to draw. They're difficult to learn how to draw, but once you've got them down, it's pretty easy after that. I mean, it's repetition. I mean, the key to drawing hands, more or less, is understanding that your hand looks like that, and your fingers have 3 joints. 1, 2, 3. They go from biggest to small, or yeah, they kind of get biggest to smallest. Oh, it's all wrong, Jesus Christ. There we go. And the thumb is just 2. And the thumb is like with a little ball, right? So that's kind of, once you understand the very basic elements of the shape, you can kind of understand that this guy right here this guy right here and this guy right here, all of these guys, they only come this direction. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's the truth. And they can kind of widen. They can all move left and right slightly, but not much. And this guy can rotate. It can kind of go in every which way. Once you understand in your mind's eye how each element moves, you can pretty much make sense of it no matter what it is that you're doing. Now, you do still have to learn the subtleties of what makes hands look natural. That's the really hard part. You know, making like these lines here around the thumb area or connecting to the knuckles and whatnot, or you know, the fold of the palm as the thumb connects to the top of the hand, that kind of stuff. That does take a little bit, but again, it's just repetition. See, my plan for next year, what I'd love to do is I'd love to start streaming while I'm drawing.
On YouTube or Twitch or?
Yeah, maybe both. Again, I don't particularly have any favorites, you know, but I'd like to start streaming my drawing and kind of helping people on the job, let's say. This skull sucks. You know, helping people right there and then kind of figure stuff out, and they could probably, you know, at home they could draw along, because I'm always listening to streams while I'm drawing at home while I'm working. I listen to a lot of gaming streams and stuff like that. So I'd love to try and do it with drawing, because I know there's lots of people out there would love not only just to have their questions answered, but on like right there on site, have the ability to course correct with someone who's a bit more experienced. I'd like to do that.
Some like live drawing / teaching sessions.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It would be fun, you know.
That would be cool.
You know, exactly. I mean, look, I hate to say it, but I've kind of been using all of you people as test. No, but I've been kind of just getting a gauge of how comfortable I am drawing while talking, and thankfully, I'm pretty good. You know, there's no real complaint. It doesn't really affect my concentration or my ability to deliver. So, something I definitely want to try and do more of, and then, you know, build viewership and build an audience, because, you know, look, everything changes. I mean, I remember we talked about this at the start when I first started doing my thing was my first time here, and we were talking about, you know, how initially crypto was not being well received, and, you know, as it's developed, it's gotten more accepted, and now it's a little bit more normalized. It's not as hot button. Would you agree that nowadays it's not as hot button as it used to be? Or is it?
I think it's all the news around it died out, and now it's just kind of in its stagnant building phase. There's still regulations by governments needing to be set, but I don't think there's like a crazy hatred towards it anymore.
Yeah, like, you know, the initial kind of knee-jerk reaction was that it's all bad and it's all wrong and everybody involved with it is bad. Like, Jesus Christ, that's such a poor attitude to have to any kind of innovation. Even if it is bad, still see at least what it has to offer. Even if it's not good, it'll teach you something. But you know, I look at how that's kind of all calmed down, and it's like, you know, I'd like to do more with drawing, I guess, from my perspective. Like, I mean, I know that, you know, NFTs and crypto, they're here, whether we like it or not. You know, they're going to stay, and, you know, if I can build an audience where I can, you know, develop more things and more means of entertainment and more fun that, you know, helps people learn something, and, you know, I might be able to make more of a living off of things like that, then yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Heck yeah.
You know, I mean, I've never been. I think
streaming, so you know, crack a joke, a little boom.
yeah, that wouldn't be cringy as hell.
At least you could rock out.
I mean, I would love to do that. I've been kind of teaching myself, you know, sound mixing and EQing and stuff like that for the last little while. So eventually, I'd love to do kind of a music stream. That would be cool. That'd be crazy, actually. I haven't performed drums in front of people in years. That'd be crazy.
Well, once you build up the drawing audience, then it's just like, oh, you mentioned drumming, and I think everyone will be
At least morbidly curious, At least they'd be there just to see if I sucked,
true.
So, I mean, every opportunity is an opportunity, right? Fucking hell. I don't know.
Them on your drum skills.
Well, I mean, that's the one I've got. It's one thing I grew up with the internet, So it's one thing that the internet's not short of is people who are very quick to tell you their opinion of whether they like you or not.
It's a blessing and a curse.
That's all that. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I can remember. Like, I don't know if anybody here even knows about this, but like, do you guys? Does anybody remember Bebo? Did anybody here even have Bebo? Is that a thing in America? Yeah, I can feel the oxygen sucking out of the room. So Bebo was like Facebook before Facebook,
Okay.
and like when I was growing up, Bebo was the thing. Everybody had to have a Bebo, and
EEBLE.
BEBO.
Oh. Okay. I gotta look.
And do it was like the first kind of really hyped social media, and it was for back when I was like 14, 15, 16. And like that was the beginning of animosity on the internet. That was really one of the primary steps, maybe in Europe you could say, but that was really like where I learned very quickly that when people are on a keyboard in their apartment or their house, they're Hercules. But when they're in the real world, it's very, very different. And that was kind of my exposure to that. And that was like at the age of, that was at the age of like 14, 15. So like I've been aware of this stuff for quite some time. So when you put new things or yourself out on the internet, you're going to get people reacting to it. It's that simple, whether you like it or not. And it's one thing I'm kind of weathered to. So I don't really mind testing out things on the internet because I've got the lived experience and how to manage it mentally.
Yeah, once you have the mental fortitude to ignore the online hate, then
Yeah.
one size fit all skill.
Plus, I mean, realistically speaking, the kind of people that just go on the internet to hate on things, they're the kind of people who just fucking hate things. So, like, who gives a fuck what they think? Genuinely, like, if your whole prerogative is to go onto the internet to complain, then you're a fucking loser. Like, and it's really that simple because there's so many better things you could be doing with your time. I see people all the time on the internet getting into huge arguments and heated fights and making everything so much bigger than it needs to be. And it's like, come on, like you could be learning an instrument right now. You could be getting drunk with some buddies in a bar and having fun. Instead, you're here looking on Reddit or Twitter talking shit.
Some people just like the DJing lifestyle. Online.
Maybe they do. Yeah, doom scrolling, isn't it? That's
mad. They think it's funny. Some people just like do it just to get a reaction out of people.
Yeah, and that really says a lot, doesn't it? Like that just says a lot about where people are at in their lives. It's just sad. I do feel more sympathy than I do anything else for that because how do you even rationalize with someone whose life has gone in that direction? Like you can't really talk sense into them because, well, like you said, it's degenerative. It's like if you meet somebody with a gambling problem, you're not really going to have a good conversation you're not really going to have a good conversation about gambling if you know the person you're talking to has a problem with it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say it's getting worse and worse too, probably, but just because how young people are exposed to social media.
I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of crazy. Asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said probably not, but I do think that like the likes of social media and smart technology, I think there should be an age limit put on it. I don't think it's right to take away those years because like I think about it now, like I was probably the last generation that remembers what it was like to grow up without the internet all the time. The internet was there, but nobody was living on it that at that stage. It was very much just a kind of it was a niche, let's say. And we still, like, I mean, where I come from, we were like feral children. We were just put outside and come back when the streetlights come on. And, you know, we got up to all sorts of, you know, silliness and stupidness, but we also had a lot of fun. And I think nowadays kids aren't really getting that kind of freedom. There's a lot of expectations because of, you know, I guess you could say group psychology, just the way people's minds work. When there's popular stuff around, they want to try and be a part of it. It's just humans being humans, but at the end of the day, if it starts to really negatively affect you at a fundamental age, it's going to affect you later in life. You know, and it's a shame because they really don't have any chance. You know, I mean, I remember growing up, they over here in Ireland, they changed the smoking age, and they changed the smoking laws. We were one of the first countries to do it, where you weren't allowed to smoke in a bar anymore, and they changed the age of smoking from 16 to 18. And I remember at first everybody was rallying against it, everybody hated it, but eventually people just got on board with it, and now no one cares. But like, I'm glad I didn't smoke when I was 16. You know, I gained a lot by not smoking at 16. Whereas I know a lot of dudes who I went to school with and who I was around, they all did. And now they're all heavily addicted to cigarettes. And, you know, it's costing them a fortune of money too, because they're very expensive over here now. They're really expensive over here now. So, you know, I look at it the same way. I'm like, I wouldn't mind, particularly teenagers, to be able to be goofy teenagers who do make mistakes, who do, you know, fuck up from time to time, and have the ability to make those fuck ups so that they go into life kind of knowing, you know, here's the line, let's say, you know, and let them make those life mistakes before they actually hit the real world. I think right now there's just a lot. I think there's just a lot of pressure on kids.
Yeah, it's also probably easier back in the day where not everything you guys are doing was being recorded.
Oh, 100%. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that my teenage years remain lost to the sands of time. I really am. Because, like, we were lunatics. Like, we were total lunatics.
What kids do nowadays with, like, willingly recording themselves. I don't know if you couldn't imagine what you guys did back in the day where there was no fear of getting caught.
I mean, it wasn't even about getting caught. It was that the embarrassment.
Oh, yeah,
Just the sheer embarrassment, like even just down to the clothing choices. I remember there was a dude over here, and he came out, like, I mean, if you recorded this and showed it back to him, he would probably, like, if this happened today, you'll probably live with it the rest of your life, because there are people out there who became memes and just never lived it down. Some did, but others didn't, and it just became a staple of their life, and it's unfortunate, you know.
yeah.
But that's all you can say, is that that's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
a guy who used to hang out with us, he came out and he used to love his he used to love, yeah, like back then, like, this is Jesus, like, this is 2002, 2003. So how old are you, Remy?
I was born in 2003.
Okay, so this is before you were born, right? And he comes out and he's wearing like these white Reebok tracksuit pants, right? And you got to know, like, back in the day, they were the shit, you know, like that was the look, right? No,
Tracksuits.
well, I mean, see, around that time, Adidas and Reebok were huge in Europe, and a lot of these kind of brands were marketing very heavily to younger people. So, you know, there was a lot of people wearing tracksuits around, and it became a whole look, especially over in England, especially, like, they were big on that whole look. That's where the kind of cliche of what's called the chav came from. If you've never seen Sacha Baron Cohen's character Ali G, I highly recommend you check it out. Like, that's what life was like, and it's hilarious, because it's in one part, it's like it's like generational, like the 70s, the 60s, but it's so cringy that it's not that it can't be anything but entertaining. So I highly recommend you check it out.
What is it called again?
Ali G.
Ali G.
Just anything, like, you can look at Ali G's interview with Donald Trump, is one of the funniest things you'll ever watch. It's just like Sacha Baron Cohen is a genius of comedy because he just finds a way of making everything awkward and uncomfortable, and that's a large part of his comedy. Like this is an 18s crowd, right? I can say crude stuff.
Yeah. This is everyone here reads Spawn. You should
Yeah.
whatever the hell you
Yeah.
want.
Like there was one interview that Ali G did with David Beckham and Posh Spice, and this was on like a late night talk show, and one of his like he opened with this, like, I mean, bear in mind, like at this point in media, Posh Spice and David Beckham were royalty. They were like super power couple. They were like the English Brad and Angelina, that kind of thing. And the first question that Sacha Baron Cohen asked was, before he got involved with Posh Spice, did he jerk off to her? And he asked David Beckham this question in front of her, in front of an entire audience. And the only reason that he did it was just to make David Beckham as uncomfortable as possible, to make the whole thing as funny as possible. And to be fair to Posh Spice, she died laughing. Like, she couldn't stop laughing because I think she knew straight away that this is the kind of humor that we're going for. But I've never seen, like, David Beckham was a superstar at that point, and he couldn't put two words together. It was just so goddamn funny. So, but going back to it, this buddy of mine, like, he came out wearing these like really like unbelievably white tracksuit pants, like cringily white tracksuit pants. And the first thing one of the guys did, as like the guy hadn't stopped walking up to our group yet, and one of the guys just took his shoe and just destroyed his pants before your man even could open his mouth. Just destroyed his pants. Just ran his shoe across it, and just all the crud from the ground and all the mud and shit just destroyed it. You watch this entire guy's personality dissolve in less than 2 seconds. Had that been recorded, he would have never let it down. So we definitely got lucky, for sure, no doubt about it. Everything lost to history.
Kevin, did you get in a lot of trouble when you were a kid, or was it just like normal kid stuff that, you know, normal kids would get away with?
I was taught at a young age by a teacher to always follow the 11th commandment as a kid. And we all looked at him like, what the hell are you talking about? But the 11th commandment was, thou shalt not get caught. So if we ever got up to some stupid shit as kids, our primary goal was to ensure that we never got caught. So did I get in trouble? No. Did I get up to stupid shit as a kid? Yes. Did I get caught? No. So I'm going to say, oh, I didn't get in trouble, but I very easily could have.
Can we hear one story about when you were a kid?
Well, I mean, so I'm going to try and figure out how is the best way to put this, right? So my partner is a teacher, and she teaches in a school that I used to go to. And she was describing to me that some of the kids in a particular year, they weren't her students or anything, but a certain group of kids were particularly rowdy. They were very difficult to control. They were constantly making trouble. They were constantly up to stuff. And I said to her, I was like, well, what are they doing? Like, how bad are they? And she explained to me, and I said, like, that's baby stuff by comparison to what, when we were in that school, got up to. And she asked me, well, like, what did you do? And I said, when school got out, we would wait until everybody went away, or all the teachers and all the janitors and all that. And like, if we couldn't get up there quick enough, we'd all go up onto the roof of the school, because it had these really cool old inlets for where there used to be skylights, but they were all covered over. But we used to go up onto the roof of the school and go skateboarding on top of the school. And like, had we been spotted or caught, like, we were getting in some serious trouble, because there was no way anybody could rationalize why we were up there beyond, oh, it was funny, you know? But had we been caught for that, we were screwed. And just, other things, like there was a huge housing estate built in the middle of the town. And, when that became a building site, all these security fences went up and all these things designed to make sure everybody stayed safe. Like we just went in and just, started finding, like, when I think about it now, I'm like, Jesus Christ. But like we would have been maybe 11 or 12. We used to just get like giant plastic rods from like draft excluders and just chase each other around these building sites, just trying to beat the shit out of each other, just because we were lunatics, But yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, like one thing I'm very proud to say is that we never did anything bad. We never did anything malicious or that actively made anybody's life harder or hurt anybody. It was usually very, very contained and very much within like our group of particular lunatics, let's say. But I'm glad of that, because there's plenty of kids out there and they do stupid shit and they end up hurting somebody or breaking something and doing bad stuff. But we weren't that bad. We were just, I guess what I could say is we were silly. We weren't bad kids. Much and all as plenty of people would have said we were. We weren't.
Just some minor trespassing.
Minor trespassing, kids being curious, getting up to shit, A buddy of mine from England told me that they had a chalk mine next to their housing estate. So they used to just like go into the mine and find like machinery and tools and stuff and just try to basically try to kill each other. Even though they had no concept of this could easily kill you, You're playing with welding equipment, you're playing with, that kind of stuff. And I remember saying to him, I was like, yeah, that's insane though. Like, yeah, what we did was, do you ever, that movie Super Troopers? Like when we screw around, it's innocent and fun, and when you screw around, it's cruel and tragic.
Rules for me and not for thee.
Yeah, but no, I mean, again, like where we come from, like it's very rural. It's like a small town surrounded by like fields and stuff like that. So there's not really a whole pile to do. You just kind of figure out what's there, and like we never. God.
Like if you're in a city, the shenanigans you can get up to is a lot
Oh
more.
yeah.
Brutal.
Oh, absolutely. Oh God, like I remember, like my brother moved to our nearest city when he was 20. I would have been 12, and like I remember going to stay with him on a couple of occasions and being like, "This is fucking totally different to what I know." Like that was a rude awakening. But interesting.
Yeah.
To say the least.
It's a whole different lifestyle in inner cities.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And like, I mean, I've been to a lot of cities now. I do prefer the quieter life. I don't mind cities, but I do prefer, less noise and less claustrophobia and that kind of stuff. I do like the quiet.
Yeah. Being able to go outside and see some nature. Not a skyscraper.
I'm surrounded by it. Oh, it's good. Like, I mean, skyscrapers are cool too, though.
True.
Remy, you say you're in Arizona, but you're not originally from Arizona, right? Or are you?
Oh, I'm from Northern California, Pacific Northwest, kind of at the redwood trees.
Oh, okay. So, are you near Sacramento or are you near San Francisco?
San Fran. I'm 6 hours north of San Fran, so like I'm up basically at the border of Oregon.
So you're like, yeah, you're right up there. Wow.
Yep.
Nice.
A lot of nature where I'm from. I'm not
Yeah.
either.
You're not a city boy.
Oh,
And
along.
do you intend on staying where you are, or are you going to move around?
I've actually been moving around quite a bit. People in the Discord might know because I was in Georgia 2 years ago, and then I was in Nashville last year. But now I'm
Yeah, I remember you saying.
So I don't know. I like it so far. A lot of my family lives out here too, which is why I kind of picked this area.
Oh, cool.
But it's a little hot.
Yeah, I've heard Arizona's pretty hot.
115 degrees on a 3-week basis is like a little brutal, but now we're getting to the good time of the year where it's perfect year, the rest of the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love warm weather. I love hot weather. I fucking hate Ireland for that.
I was going to say, isn't it
Yeah.
not very good weather over there?
It's shit. It's really bad. It's terrible weather most of the time. We had a pretty decent summer to an extent. It wasn't too. It was very humid. Our climate decided to impersonate like fucking Southeast Asia for most of it. Like, so it's just hot. There's no sun. It's just pure cloud, but it's hot, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that gets tough going. But when the sun comes out in Ireland, there's nothing like it. There's nowhere else in the world like it. It's crazy because it only happens maybe for like 2-3 weeks out of the year.
Sheesh.
So it's like there's a reason why certain parts of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are shot out here. It's because it looks like something out of a movie. It doesn't look like a real place. Because Billy Connolly, the famous Scottish comedian, he did say it like Ireland, England, and Scotland and Wales, they didn't get green by mistake. There's a lot of green here, and when the sun comes out, you're kind of immediately made aware of the fact that holy shit, this is green.
Yeah. My
So-
mom visited Ireland, and she was saying it's one of the most beautiful places she's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, in good weather, Ireland is second to none. Like, it really is. There's nowhere can compete with it. The only problem is that it's only that way for maybe 3 weeks out of the year.
Yeah, that's tough. Where I'm from, it's quite beautiful, and it's raining a lot, but we get sun more than 3 weeks a year.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, for us, a good day is overcast.
I see why you became a comic book artist.
Yeah, well, I was almost destined at that point, like to go down that route because, like, I did sport for years. I think you guys refer to it as running track.
Yeah.
I did relay and I did sprinting for a few years, and like, it only took maybe 2 or 3 seasons for me to realize, hey, this is fucking shit.
Constantly running in rain.
Yeah, it just sucked. Like, it just sucked. It was just like, hey, I'm fucking soaking again. Great. I'm really committed to this.
Let's run another mile.
Oh,
Woohoo.
cool. We're going again. Oh, yeah, great. Yeah. Let's bring this stupid fucking Billard or whatever the fuck it is. I'm going to pass to that guy and he's going to run for a bit. Wow. So I'm not rubbishing it. It's an awesome sport, but I just very quickly got bored of it. I got bored of being stoked to my skin every second fucking weekend.
Is this the new brush?
This is this is my ink brush that I've been using for a while. It's beautiful though. I love it. It's my favorite brush to use.
You custom make your brushes, right? Like,
yeah, everything I use is custom
nice.
because it
How long
just
does it
makes
take you to really dial in on a brush that you like?
When it gets to where I want it to be, very quickly. But to get it to where I want it to be, it could take months, weeks, a year, 2 years. This brush, I think I've been slowly developing this brush for maybe 5 years, and in the last 3, I've kind of really gotten it where I want it. So that's not what I want that to do.
She Spawn typed out a little story in the chat. I don't know if you can read chat, so I'll read it for you.
Yeah, please.
I got suspended for a week in first grade. I ride the bus, and so did my cousin, Barbie, who was much older. She was in 8th grade. The older kids sat in the back and younger up front. I saw her boyfriend kiss her, and for some reason I thought he was attacking her. So I went to kill him, ran back there and stabbed him with a pencil, and then proceeded to beat the shit out of him. I guess he didn't fight back because I was a first grader. His first suspension.
God damn.
Stabbing a with a pencil? Bold.
Just you know what that is? That's starting with the exclamation mark, Yeah, that's epic. That's fucking epic. That's how you stamp down a zero tolerance policy, like, immediately.
Imagine you're a parent hearing that. First graders stabbing other kids with pencils. What do you think?
I mean,
yeah.
my question is if it was my kid got suspended for doing that, my first question is why?
That's a good question. Yeah. Fair.
My first question is why? You know, what if you got like, let's hear you out, you know, like if it was for the right reasons, I'm gonna high five you. If it was for the wrong reasons, I'm gonna slap you in the head, you know?
Your older cousin was getting kissed, so you stabbed him. I'd let that one slide.
I mean, it shows your heart's in the right place. You know, you're looking out for your, you know what I mean? You're looking out for your family.
Yeah. Maybe just a little instruction on what to do next time.
Maybe, yeah. Look, let's not. How about we don't lead with the stabbing, and you know, maybe don't lead with the stabbing. But hey, listen, we'll keep it in the back pocket. Let's not get rid of anything just yet.
Jeez, man, you got suspended in 5th grade too. What are you? You're a naughty child. 5th grade because I was playing lawn darts the night before, and this girl at the bus stop was scolding me for playing with a dangerous toy. I decided to push her, but when she fell down, she bit her lip and had to have stitches. Damn.
That sucks.
You're a menace.
Just out here not take a shit. I mean, I got in real trouble one. Okay, so there was a guy. It was a guy in my class, and like he was a nice dude. He was a nice dude, but he wasn't the brightest. He was, let's say, he was slow off the mark, you know. And again, like he wasn't a dumbass or anything, but he was just, he kind of got ahead of himself. He was very high energy, and there were times where he would do some shit, and he would come across like a real idiot. And we were out. I never really played soccer much in school. I just didn't enjoy the sport, but the guys that did, you know, I'd always be friendly with them and whatnot. But this particular day, I think we just all decided not to go into a class together. I think it was like 20 of us just decided, nah, fuck it, we're not going. And we just went out into the field and just started kicking the ball around. So we just kind of made teams of like 6, I think. But this dude, we were on the same team. And I got the ball, and he just like straight in, full 100% slide tackled me. Took me out like right away. And I just got up. I was like, dude, what the fuck? And he looked at me and said, go on, I got the ball. And I'm like, yeah, but we're on the same team. And he looked at me, he was like, oh, whatever. And I was like, I reacted. I insulted him. You know, I insulted him. I called him a dumbass. But, and I was well within my right to call him a dumbass because he was being exactly that. But he broke the rule. You know, you over here, there's a very, very simple rule of a confrontation. Don't spit at somebody. You know, that's a
sign of disrespect.
Don't spit at somebody in Ireland. If you spit at somebody in Ireland, that's essentially you inviting you're inviting the most violent version of a reaction on yourself. If you spit at somebody in Ireland, you're going to get a bad day. I'll put it that way. And that's exactly what happened. I got in a lot of trouble. But then when I explained it, the teachers were like, you know, he spat at you. And I'm like, yeah. Even my teachers got it. Like, they were like, yeah, you don't spit at somebody. I didn't stab him, though.
You didn't stab him. You know, spitting and stabbing. If you think you stabbed him with a pencil, it would have been a little more tame than spitting. But
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Let's be very honest now. If I had the means of stabbing, I would have considered it.
Oh, okay.
You know, let's just call a spade a spade. But no, I didn't lead with the stabbing. But I respect the commitment she spawned.
I did too. I got in quite a few fights growing up, but none of them I ever started, and there was never any weapons. So
yeah, I can say the same. Any scuffles I ever got in, thankfully I never started them, and I never utilized a weapon or had one on me. So thankfully,
I might have started them with my words, but I never like physically started them, I should say.
Well, I mean, talking shit is talking shit. You know?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna get that mad about it, I didn't realize we were going with the hands, but guess we're there. Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you try to quote Anchorman and hope for the best. You know, I've got, oh God, what is it again? Oh, I can't think of it. Will Ferrell, he's got the name for both his fists.
Oh, Anchorman's such a good movie. I need to watch it again though.
Jack Johnson, and there's another one.
There's so many quotable lines from that movie.
Oh, stop, man! I still quote it to this day. I really do. I really do. That movie shaped a lot of the humor out here, I can tell you. Yeah, no, there was never over here people talk shit religiously. Talking shit in Ireland is almost like a fucking vocation. It's
A form of bonding almost.
100%. There's people that's how you make your friends in Ireland is you talk shit to each other, and then the ones who can handle it stick around. The ones who don't. That's pretty much I imagine that's the same pretty much everywhere. But here in Ireland, pretty much every long-term friendship that's been established in Ireland has happened via insulting each other religiously and relentlessly. That's just the way our culture shapes itself. When I was younger, I don't know what it's like now. Although the kids over here nowadays seem pretty much the same. They still talk shit to each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, growing up in those online Call of Duty lobbies. I don't know if you ever played first person.
Oh my god,
those got gnarly. I mean, you could say whatever.
Dude, we used to drive people insane on that. Oh my god. We used to drive people. We used to literally go on just to see how heavily we could wind people up. I can't imagine over in America. You guys go hard in the paint with your shit talk with Call of Duty. It goes from friendly banter to insane declarations of "I'm coming for you."
People pull out IP addresses. People no, it gets crazy.
Kevin, do you still talk shit to your buddies?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Our whole existence is that. I mean, one of my closest buddies who comes around to my house pretty regularly. He if I stutter on a word, or if I just don't stick the landing on a sentence, I'm going to hear about it for the next 48 hours, and vice versa. And we have let's say his name is John, but it isn't. But let's just say his name is John. We have a thing that we say, you just pulled a John, when you're trying to make a point and you just trail off and eventually just give up mid-sentence. That's what we call you just pulled a John. And if he does that in my company, I'll probably remind him every day for a year that he did that.
Just you can't lost the words. You can't find the words to say.
Well, he'll be like, he'll say, even if he's had a couple of drinks or whatever, he'll be, it's like when, and he just completely, his brain just stops working mid-sentence. So we'll just hold that over him for, as long as it feels comfortable to.
Yeah, I feel that.
Does it get worse if you guys are drinking?
Yeah. Oh. The minute any kind of inhibition is lowered, the debauchery and shit talk dials up to about 50. Of course, that's just how friends should be with each other, though. It's just relentless, jeering and jabbing, but in a good way, in a playful way where you're actually having fun, If you're laughing while saying it, then it's a good time. If you're not, then what are you doing?
If one of the boys is taking it a little too personally, then it's like, all right, now it's not fun anymore because your feelings are getting hurt.
Yeah, what'll happen over here if you start to display that your feelings are getting hurt is people are going to dial it up to about 100.
Oh, double down. Heck.
Oh no! If you've come out in a bad mood, and you make it known that you're in a bad mood, we're going to find what's making you in that bad mood and lean into it, And again, not in a bad way, right? I do want to specify that never in a malicious way, If you're in a bad mood because something genuinely bad has happened, absolutely, we're going to, be your buddy, of course. But if you're just being a little bitch, then we're going to tell you in no uncertain terms that you're being a little bitch.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to be. It'll keep you honest.
There's no other way to do it, though.
Well, if you get too committed to your feelings, then you kind of think that, well, now the world has to change to my feelings. But that's just not how the world works, unfortunately. It would be nice if it did, because luckily everybody a lot more comfortable. But the world is nasty. Like it's not a nice place a lot of the time. So if you can find a group of people that will joke around with each other in a playful way and not a malicious way, then you're doing a lot better in life than most.
True. I always tend to like match energy. If the environment calls for a real match talk, I'll don't worry, I'll hop in. But I never.
It's a good way to be.
Never initiate the shit talk. But if someone starts talking shit, I'm throwing it back.
Yeah. So you're essentially what you're saying is you're ready at a moment's notice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a good way to be. Yeah, it's a good way to be because you're adaptable then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I read the room and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I tend to kind of just read the situation, and if it calls for it, then I'll throw a few jokes out there. I've always been very much of the mind that if I'll never change my humor to suit another person. That's just not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't like my humor, then I don't really want to hang out with you. These.
Sure.
If you like
yourself, why the hell you?
Yeah, like I mean, I don't really want to hang out with you. It's nothing against you. It's just if we're not compatible, then we're not compatible. I'm not going to hold it against you. But don't go telling me how to be.
Seriously,
I find that the world is really struggling with that one lately. Is the fucking everybody telling each other how they should be? It's like
I know. I'm working on it like ASU campus, and I don't mean this in any political sense, but like. I saw an Israeli, an Israel-Palestine protest, and it was just two groups of. It felt like a South Park episode. It was two groups of people just yelling at each other, and I was like, "Guys, we're at a college campus on ASU. What is your goal here?" There was like 30 of you. It wasn't even like a big thing, and they were just sitting there yelling at each other for hours. And I was like, "What is this accomplishing?
What's the benefit to everybody's day here?"
Yeah. It was really funny to watch.
Well, I made a comparison once because there was a huge oh god, I think it was like 2018, 2019. And like just for context, right? Ireland up until maybe 2015, 2016 was, you could argue, the second or third most Christian or Catholic country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We were I think we were first for a lot of years, but then Brazil and I want to say Brazil, I think Colombia, but I could be wrong on that. I could be corrected. I'm not sure, but I know that Brazil is now the de facto most Christian or Catholic part of the world, and so over here, the Catholic Church made an awful lot of the decisions. Before I was born, maybe in the 70s and 80s, the Catholic Church were very heavily influenced, or made a very heavy influence on the decision-making of Irish politics. And in 2017, I think, again, my dates could be slightly out here, but there was a huge push to repeal the Eighth Amendment in the Irish Constitution. And what it meant was that women would become more autonomous with abortion. Now, again, that's a topic that people can quantify at their own rate amongst themselves if they do or don't agree with it. But regardless, there was a huge push in Irish society, particularly by the Irish women, to repeal the Eighth Amendment so that abortion would become legal in Ireland. And there was an event or a comic book show going on in Dublin, which is obviously, it's our capital city. And I don't come from Dublin, I come from the south, I come from Cork. So we have a very, very different approach than the Dubliners. The Dubliners tend to get very heated very quickly, whereas Cork people, we're a little bit more measured, but we're every bit as fiery, if not more so. But we just don't start. I guess what I'm saying is we don't go from 0 to 50, we go from 0 to 20 to 100. We have a kind of a middle ground. But during my time at this show up in Dublin, there was a protest just like what you described. And on one side, so O'Connell Street is the biggest street in Dublin. It'd be the same as, let's say, Times Square in New York. And on one side of O'Connell Street, we had all of the, I guess you could say, the younger people, the younger women, and their mothers and grandmothers who were on the side of repealing the amendment and getting rid of that particular law. And on the other side, you had what you could describe as the staunch Catholics who wanted the status quo to remain. And I was sat next to two girls at the comic show, two friends of mine who work in comics as well. And I pointed out to them, I said, so, and again, this is just my perception of it more than anything. And again, I guess you could say it's more of an artist's viewpoint rather than a politician or I guess you could say just a citizen's opinion. My citizen's opinion is that leave people make their own decisions as adults. That's my opinion. If you're over 18 or over 20 and you're deemed by your country or state as an adult, then you should be entitled to make whatever decision you want as long as you're not hurting anybody. But I made the point that, you've got one side and you've got the other side, and they're all shouting at each other, right? And they were like, the two girls were like, yeah. And I said, okay, I'm going to take my opinion out of it, and I just want to just point this out because it's what I'm seeing. You've got one side who think they're more enlightened than the other side because, they are looking at things from a handful of other perspectives that maybe the other side isn't perceiving. Maybe that's their thought. Maybe this side are so ignorant that they're not paying attention to the differing factors, X, Y, Z. We've all talked about these kinds of things. It's a political conversation, isn't it? But I said, you've got one side who consider themselves to be more intelligent than the other side, and you've got the other side who consider themselves to be more intelligent than the other side. And they're like, yeah, okay. Why are you shouting at each other then? Okay, if you're all convinced that your side is the correct party, why then is your chosen mode of getting your point across to yell and shout at each other? Like, the word politics is derived from the word polite. And yet, there's almost no politeness in politics other than to manipulate. And so I just made a very quick point of saying, like, feel how you feel, but what is the objective in shouting at another person? Like, what are you looking to improve or achieve? Because you see, if you shout at another person, odds are you're most likely going to push them in the opposite direction. Like,
So
if I came on here and I started shouting at everybody here that Spawn is the best comic, it is. Like, let's be honest. But if Spawn is the best comic, even though you might think Batman is the best comic, or you might think Spider-Man is the best comic, or Wonder Woman, or whatever you want, any Image series, you might think, but I just start roaring at you, like relentlessly, that Spawn is the best comic, and I never let you get a word in. Odds are you're never going to read Spawn, and you're never going to listen to me ever again. So that was the kind of the place that I fell on. It was again, no matter how you feel about something, why are you shouting? Like, that's just stupid. It never made sense to me.
It's the least persuasive form of argument.
Exactly. I mean, I was a salesman for years. Like, I worked in a computer company for years selling computers, and I was hardly working in a computer company selling fucking couches, was I? But I'm just making the point that, when you're a salesperson, you learn pretty quickly walking up to somebody and go, buy this, isn't going to work. Like, like, walk into a Best Buy, wear a blue t-shirt and walk into a Best Buy. This little thing. Hello.
Sorry. Hello?
I was just saying there, like, if you are Best Buys still a thing in America?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, if you walk into a Best Buy and just walk up to a random person and say, buy this.
It's best.
Yeah. Odds are they're most likely going to react by saying, can you fuck off? That's not the way to do things. So if you're looking to try and convince people of something, odds are your best bet is to hear them out first and then say, okay, if you don't mind, I might add my point. And then look, from there we can kind of figure it out. But it seems so fucking stupid to me that at this day and age of our lives in society that we even have to fucking quantify that, that people just know, oh, I feel strongly now, I gotta start yelling.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I get the cause is good in your eyes. Whatever you're supporting, I'm sure it's fundamental, like, good, hopefully. but shouting at each other for just hours
Oh
in a
my
public
god,
place makes no sense. What are you?
it's exhausting.
I think the more important debate is which character is better, Batman or Spawn.
Oh, boy.
I mean, like the right answer is whichever you prefer. I mean, no, I mean, Batman has got. I mean, it's not a fair question. I know I'm being fucking political about this. I mean, the question here is really, what do you prefer in terms of a story? Do you prefer, grounded fantasy, or do you prefer supernatural fantasy? They're both derivatives of either one. Spawn, it's more adult. Definitely got more grit and edge to it. It's got more horror. It's got more really cool shit. But Batman's got this really cool, dark, gritty, believable element to him. So I think Batman's definitely had longer to make his reputation as the best comic book character. But I don't know, man. Like, I mean, bear in mind, like, Batman didn't become cool until the 80s, Like, Batman, like, the people that were buying Batman in the 70s and 60s, they were a niche, like a super niche. But by the time the 80s came around and Frank Miller got his hands on Batman, that's when the Batman that we all know today came about. So, Spawn is a badass. But, Spawn still has another maybe 20, maybe 30 years, let's say, before, if that was going to be Spawn's mainstream hit, that would happen. I mean, obviously, I know Spawn is pretty mainstream. But what I'm saying is that to the level of cultural iconography that Batman has, it took, Batman was 1937. So it took nearly 50 years before Batman actually became culturally badass. So, I mean, I will say personally, like, Batman was my favorite character from the age of 4. But from the age of 14, Spawn became my favorite character. So,
Don't get me wrong, I love them both. But
Mhm.
Batman has that, like you were saying, the believable aspect. You could
Yeah.
legitimately think as a little kid reading it that you could grow up to be Bruce Wayne and become Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it was not really possible.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Batman's got that kind of super grounded element to him, and that super, it's almost like James Bond to a certain degree. It's like, you got the billionaire playboy, he's got all the tools and gadgets, he's got the butler, but then you add on top the superheroic element of it, and it just becomes fun. It just becomes cool. And I think Spawn is more niche in that, the supernatural element, and I think Spawn still carries a little bit of the fatigue of the 90s with him to a certain degree in comics. I think, the comic books of the 90s definitely get boxed together quite a bit. And I think Spawn still carries that to a certain degree. I've heard other comic book fans kind of say that stuff, but Spawn is the only character that has truly adapted to every shift in the comic books world. And not only that, but innovated on top of it. Like, that's what makes Spawn so special, in my opinion, is the fact that, he's a character that was born out of an extremely popular and stylized era of comic books. The 90s was iconic for just the ridiculous anatomy and the ridiculous storytelling, and, Rob Liefeld. Like, it's just all that stuff. And I think Spawn carries that still, maybe, because none of the rest of the titles really carried on. I mean, Witchblade ended, then it came back, then it ended again, then it came back. Wildcats ended, Youngblood ended, but Spawn carried on. But if you look at what Todd did with so many of the artists that he worked with down through the years, not just Greg Capullo, but Ashley Wood, who's completely different to Greg in so many ways, and then night and day to Todd in his art style. Spawn, in my opinion, just became the most adaptable comic book, in that it should have, like, on paper, a lot of people would say Spawn should have ended in the 90s with the rest of the titles, but it didn't. And it's iconic now for all the right reasons, in that it's a unique IP, it's a unique character. It never lost its edge. it never became boring. Whereas Batman did become boring. You know, at one point, Batman became boring and DC had to fix that. And Spawn never did. So, you know, there's pros and cons to either side of it, but I personally just love it when the two of them are together. You know, that book that Greg and Todd did recently was awesome. You know, it was just cool to see Batman and Spawn together again, and to see Todd and Greg working together again. It was just, for somebody like me, that was like going back to my childhood all over again. So you gotta give it to Todd. He's not only is he one step ahead, but he's always doing what the fans will enjoy. And that's something really special in today's entertainment world, is that everything that Todd does is designed with the fans' entertainment in mind. And I love that about what Spawn represents. You know, it's not one of these things where they made a decision, the fans didn't like it, so now they're blaming the fans. You know, that's stupid. You can't blame your audience for not liking what you're producing. That's stupid. And Todd doesn't do that. He creates books and characters. And I'm not saying this just because, you know, I'm an artist who works for Todd. I'm saying this because long before I was ever on Todd's radar, or anybody else's for that matter, I was a proponent of what real creativity looks like. And it's just crazy ideas and crazy characters doing crazy shit that we hope entertains us, you know.
Which other comic books were you a fan of when you were a kid, besides Batman and Spawn?
Oh man, I was a diehard Spider-Man hit. Like, if there was a book with Spider-Man's name on it, I was collecting it at one point. I just couldn't get enough of that. And it's weird because I actually started collecting Spider-Man at a really weird period in Spider-Man's history. I started collecting him when John Romita Jr. took over the storytelling. So, like, the first real Spider-Man that I was exposed to, he really didn't look anything like, you know, the Spider-Man that everybody else touts. Like, I mean, you know, John Romita's Spider-Man looks as different to, let's say, Todd's Spider-Man as Todd's did to who was before him, if you know what I'm saying. So I came in when Romita was telling the story, and at that point Spider-Man was a bit older. He was more adult, and he was kind of, I think he was married to Mary Jane at that point. So there was all, you know, the kind of hijinks drama with their marriage on top of the just the superheroics of it. Then there was the Ultimate Spider-Man series, which, you know, had Mark Bagley, which is, you know, easily one of the best artists ever to work in comics. And I loved the Ultimate X-Men series as well. I couldn't get enough of that when I was younger. I'm just trying to think. I really liked, this is a weird one, I really liked Transmetropolitan, which was Warren Ellis's kind of baby. That book is crazy and bizarrely accurate to the world we're in today. If you've not read it, I highly recommend giving Transmet a listen or a read. It's awesome.
I'm going to have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with that one.
Spider Jerusalem is the character's name. He's a journalist in the future. But it was like one of the first dystopian comics. You know, it was one of the first kind of, we're telling a story about what a dismal future in humanity will look like, and it's actually very accurate to today. Not necessarily in like that kind of edgelord of like, oh, they predicted it. I'm saying that, you know, Warren Ellis kind of pseudo predicted certain elements of our society today that have actually come true, like a very aggressive media, a very aggressive news delivery service, very aggressive entertainment. You know, these things that are designed to kind of make humans more, let's say passive, or just more comfortable instead of kind of confrontational, let's say. Very interesting comic. And fun. Nearly there.
This thing's looking pretty freaking sweet, man.
Yeah, he's looking.
Kevin, I have a question. I don't know how, I'm going to explain it because I don't think you're familiar. Here at Oddkey, we do something called POAPs, and they're kind of essentially proof of attendance proof of attendance patches. Excuse me. Okay. And basically, it's like, you know, these events that we host, like, including this live drawing, other events with Todd, other artists. Sometimes we do community events. Basically, for people who show up, they can earn these proof of attendance patches. So we do them like once a month. And basically, what they are is just a little piece of art with the month on it and the year to signify that you came to hang out with the Odd Key Discord for that month. And I was curious if you would be interested in maybe creating a POAP for one of our months.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Heck yeah. I'll
Anytime I've ever been on here, I've enjoyed myself, and I've always enjoyed the conversation with you guys. So absolutely
appreciate it. Sweet. Well, we'll be talking more about that in the future.
Yeah, you know where I am, dude. Shoot me a message anytime.
We've had some other artists working on POAPs as well, and I know the community loves them. It's a little free thing we give out, and people like to collect. And I think they're
awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I've changed my mind. I don't want you guys to enjoy. Yeah, of course.
Well, all right. So you guys, I remember I've been taking screenshots throughout the night. This month's POAP is from Jason Turner. I should have previewed that. So make sure you keep coming to these events. And Kevin, appreciate you always willing to come back and entertain us.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good conversation. You're all very nice people. You know, it's very easy. You know, and plus, I just enjoy drawing. So it's cool to just sit down and draw in front of people. And, if they enjoy it, hey, brilliant.
Heck yeah. Getting some practice when you start streaming.
Yeah, exactly. The only problem is I'm not going to have I guess you could say a moderator to bounce off of like you're doing right now.
Or a co-host.
Yeah, exactly. So if it starts making bank, I'll hire you or someone.
Well, the first few times I'll just be there for the volunteer. I can volunteer my time. That'd be more than willing. That'd be fun.
We'll see. Well, it's all down to how it all works out. I'm a big proponent of you can't plan for stuff like that. You just kind of got to roll with it and see what's needed.
Yeah, I think you should just have your drum set next to you, and so every once in a while you get a riff in.
It's funny actually because I'm moving my whole studio into where I play music, so that's actually a possibility.
A little art section. What else is there to want?
Sorry?
I said a little art and a drum session like that. How much more entertaining can you get?
You can get pretty entertaining. I mean, like that's pretty low on the bar of things you could want in terms of entertainment, but it's the enthusiasm that I appreciate, and that'll definitely get you hired. No, I'm joking. Like, look, it's all fun at the end of the day. I don't take this shit too seriously.
Welcome back to stage, Texas.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. While you guys were talking, I came up with a couple questions pertaining to the direction that you get, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you? Saying is,
you're breaking up a little bit there, Tex.
Question is, when you're doing a cut, sorry.
It's okay, dude.
What I'm saying is,
Texas, you got to take your thing off Bluetooth again. Can't hear you at all.
No, who's getting the Yelp review?
Yeah, wait, I'm going to Yelp review your mic, dude. 0 stars.
Ooh. Cold.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even hear him.
To quote Chris Pontius from Jackass, the Russian border police. Stern but fair.
Stern but fair. What's up, the Nature Boy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Kevin, thanks for joining us again. Had to work and was late, and glad this is still going on.
Yeah, dude.
I did put a link for the POAPs in the chat if you ever wanted to check it out. But I did have a question. We've had Mark Spears on here before, and he just recently did a CGC Signature Series event, and I was curious if you had plans to do one of those.
I don't right now. To tell you the truth, I really don't even know. I don't even know how I go about it. It's not something I've kind of considered. But I can look into it more, and once I have the means of doing so, I was asked the same question earlier on. I would gladly do it. I was asked if I have done one or would I do one, and the answer is yes. It's just again over here in Ireland, it would mean I would need to get one of the registered shop owners to come down and oversee it, and that it's a big undertaking for how things work over here.
Yeah.
So I'd need to kind of just get the ducks in the row before I could commit. But again, like if the ability or if the let's say I'm trying to word this, if the means came about, yes, I would definitely do one of those. No doubt. Okay, we're nearly there now. We're just gonna get this cape done, and we're going home.
And I'm sorry if that was already asked earlier.
Oh, dude, don't be sorry at all. Jesus, I'm more than happy to answer questions. That's what I'm here for.
You got anything coming down the pipeline? We talked at the beginning about some interiors and some covers, but anything else you're working on, or you cannot talk about it?
No, I mean, look, I've always got something. It's my job, so I have to keep the lights on. Next year, my primary goal next year is to get a series of pages done. There's a guy I'm very friendly with. We've worked on a lot of projects together down through the years, and he and I are looking to do a pitch ideally to Image. So we're gonna try and get that up and running if possible. So that's going to take quite a bit of work. It's a big book, but it's cool. It's got some badassery going on. So I'll be kind of committed to that pretty early in the year. But I'm actually, and like I said, I'm looking to get into streaming. So I'm going to be putting quite a bit of time into that and building an audience that, like this, where I can get familiar with people and hang out with people and have fun. Not necessarily just to sell products or to, sell everything that I'm doing and make a massive, business venture out of everything. But, to try and just create an audience of people that want to be entertained and try and give them that, I guess. And then ideally, start working on my own books then as well.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet because I love working on Spawn and I love working on mainstream comics, but like anybody influenced by Todd, you do want to do your own thing. You do want to make your own name too. So while I never ever stop working on Spawn as long as they'll have me, at the same time, I have my own ideas too that I'd love to start putting out into the world and see what people think. That'd be cool.
Putting some chains on it.
Ryan, I'm just trying to get these fuckers to curl. I haven't drawn chains in a little while, so I'm a little rusty. Again, what I've been drawing a lot of lately is private work, so it's just mostly commissions of like original characters and stuff like that for people who are getting their stories up and running. That's not right either. God damn it.
So people will commission and ask you to come up with a character, and like you'll
yeah. A lot of the time, a lot of people they've got like an artist that they're working with, but they mightn't be as experienced or they mightn't be as let's say as comfortable doing character designs as I would be. And so I do get a lot of people asking me from time to time, could you help me visualize this so I can send it to my artist? It's a fun way to get to know people and it's a fun way to do work. So I do recommend most people don't like taking original character requests, but I've always found it like a fun challenge because you have to adapt to every character, so it kind of keeps you sharp. There.
Yeah, it's cool. You get a lot of practice drawing a bunch of like random different stuff.
Yeah, like I mean, I'll give you an example, right? So this year alone, okay, from the month of April to May, I drew dark horror in Spawn to this change will not behave. Dark horror in Spawn to Irish mythology in Fionn to robotic mix to fucking fairy tales. So you just kind of have to keep the creative wheels spinning, and you just kind of have to stay adaptable because you just don't know what's going to get thrown at you. Like one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was very, very early in my career from a comic book artist here in Ireland, which was always prepare to work on your least wanted property. And I never, at the start, I didn't really understand what he was saying, but what he was saying is stay ready, because you don't know, like for example, most people who want to work for DC, let's say, they want to work on Batman, or they want to work on Superman, or the Justice League, or Wonder Woman, or the Flash. But odds are you're not going to get them right away. Odds are you're probably going to have to work on another title or another story. And so if you, let's just use, for example, Booster Gold. Most people that I've met really don't like Booster Gold as a character. They think he's too goofy. But if you're serious about working in comic books and DC come calling, offering you Booster Gold, are you going to say no? Because if you're saying no, you're potentially ruining an opportunity for yourself, even though you don't like the character. But if you do well on Booster Gold and it does really good, and then you get more work say on Batman, well, it was a means to an end. It worked. So I've always tried to work on as many things that I like as well as many things as I don't like at once, so I can stay sharp and you know, keep the mental muscles flexed, let's say.
Wow. It's crazy how menacing you can make it look with no color.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment to get. We like that.
Oh, the Texas Red wants to come back up. Let's see if his McDonald's Wi-Fi got fixed.
Hey, you asshole.
That's what I'm talking about. That's that shit talk that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you were talking about your, when you see your friend upset and you try to find out what it is and then you lean into it. Oh, buddy, we do that here all the time, especially with our military friends. I mean, we are fucking relentless.
Yeah.
We want to do as much emotional scarring and damage as possible.
Yeah. You'd we'd all click immediately.
Well, that's how you know you guys are brothers. You know what I mean? That's
Absolutely.
how you know there's no fake and there's no fake in it.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's totally real. You can't fake that kind of interaction with somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And those relationship takes years to build, to get to that. And those are very precious. And you don't get too many of those.
You sure don't, man. You sure
Build relationships like that, and once you build them, you really can't duplicate them down the road sometimes.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah, I noticed that as I get older, I have friends that since I've known since I was 13. I've known for 30 years now. And it's like you meet new people and it's just never at the same level, and you wonder, like, could this, there's levels of being friends.
Remy, 30 million. 30 million, man.
30 million? That's a steep price. Texas, you got a bounty on your head, sir.
30 million for what?
To kick you off the stage.
From this hillbilly, he doesn't have it. This guy doesn't have 30 million OCT. I got 30 million.
So you're saying you'll offer 30 million to stay?
Well, hold on. Let me ask Kevin a few questions before you fuckers get rid of me. Kevin, what I wanted to ask was direction-wise for covers. Do you get any type of direction from, I guess, who gives you is there directions given?
I mean, generally speaking, I think Todd's said this on a number of occasions that he tends to just let people do the thing, because that's when you kind of get the best results a lot of the time. I've always been a big proponent of I guess you could say the 50-50 rule when it comes to direction. So And the 50-50 rule is 50% guideline, 50% freedom. Because if you have too much freedom in your approach to drawing a cover or a piece of art right away, then what can happen is you can kind of lose your focal point and it tends to kind of get a bit messy. But if you have a kind of a 50-50 of kind of like, here's a guideline of what works, and here's 50% freedom for you to interpret that how you feel, that's the best course of action. Now, Spawn has been around a long time, so it's very easy to access the flavor of art that is required for Spawn or a Spawn cover, let's say, because like you're looking at Spawn himself or one of his characters, and you want to try and make it look as badass as humanly possible. That's the goal. So unless Todd or Thomas Healy, the editor, specifically ask me, we want to cover with this on it, then yeah, I'll do what they want. But if I'm just told, can we get a couple of covers, then I take that as, let's go, let's run, let's try and draw the coolest thing we can. Because ultimately, if you're doing what I do, you're just looking to draw the coolest thing you can draw. So I often tend to err on the side of, okay, if I'm asked, we want Spawn looking cool, looking badass, well, I was going to do that anyway, and they know that. Like, they're not going to say, can you make Spawn a badass? Well, of course, he already is. You've spent the last 30 years making him that. So they don't need to say that stuff. But if they, have a particular cover or cover storytelling in mind, then yeah, I gladly do whatever is required. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. The other thing is I wanted to know is, do you read, let's say, that particular issue and then determine, because I noticed like some characters, their covers, so for instance, like Spawn covers, they have been known to be this, bigger than life covers, and I'm not saying it because I'm a fan of, Spawn is my favorite.
Mhm.
I'm not just saying it. I just noticed that the Spawn covers are iconic no matter, which cover it is. Like,
Yeah.
Pac was on here, and one of the things that he said that I think was so cool was he says, I tell my artists one thing: if you can draw one cover for you to be remembered as, that's what I want you to do for this cover, for each cover that you do for us. And I thought that, that was like, wow, like, he absolutely does not want second best. He wants the best from that artist at that time for that cover.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, that's a pretty simple expectation when you're a professional artist. If the expectation of you is, when you're creating your cover, to do work that makes people remember you, like he's basically leaning into what it is that makes us artists, which is, we want to do something that makes people go, wow, holy shit. Like that famous cover that Todd did of Spider-Man, where he's kind of crouched down, he's just surrounded in webs. Immediately put him on the map as one of the most exciting Spider-Man artists out there. So you're describing Todd's approach as basically letting us be artists and not micromanaging us. That's huge.
yeah, exactly. So as an artist, when you're doing these covers, do you kind of take a peek at the actual issue, read it, and they say, okay, what I'm gonna do is, so Spider-Man does this a lot. You'll see a lot of the covers for Spider-Man, especially the older ones, and then pretty much have an understanding of what the comics is about. It's like telling,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
sometimes
totally.
covers that are just like, is just Spider-Man, or for instance, Spawn. Now, Spawn is one of those covers that he's had characters in there. Like, you'll see a Redeemer or you'll see Cygor, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is the Battle of Cygor. How do you go choose by determining how you're gonna do the cover for it? Is reading the issue something that you do to give you inspiration?
Not necessarily. Like, the cover is the first piece of art that you see. If it's an active component of the story that needs to be told, then odds are Todd or Thomas Healy, his editor, editor in chief, I should say. They'll request that, and they'll send you the issue, and you can look through it. But more often than not, they're looking for a piece of art that's going to sell the book, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the comic book business. It's not, it's not the comic book show and tell. So even though what you're describing, telling the story in one image for the cover so that the audience knows what they're getting, it works. But ultimately, you really just want something that looks good. So for me, if Todd or Thomas come to me and say, I want a cover, I'm going to just draw, unless they specifically say, we need you to take a look at this and put elements here available, then I'll look at that, and I'll go from what they're saying. But generally speaking, I'm just going to try and draw the coolest shit I can draw. I'm just going to draw some of the coolest, most badass stuff I can come up with, and hopefully they like it. That's really all you can do as an artist, is, especially as a comic book artist, is you can kind of put your sensibilities out there and hope people resonate with them. I got lucky in the sense that they resonated with Todd, so that he gave me a shot, and I've always been indebted to that, because, before Todd paid attention to me, I was a nobody. I was just a dude making comics like so many others. And, no, I admittedly, I've spent my life looking at Spawn comics and, learning how to draw by looking at Spawn comics. So I definitely have components of my drawing style that are definitely part of Todd's artistic DNA, you could say. It's fair to say it's fairly obvious that I'm influenced by him and Greg and Ashley Wood and a whole bunch of Philip Tan was the artist on Spawn when I really started collecting. So, a massively different style of art from Philip Tan to say like Angel Medina or Greg Capullo or even Todd. So, I love when comic books tell a story in the cover initially, but ultimately it's not as important as just putting something that looks good on the cover, if that makes sense. A cover doesn't have to be entirely sold based on the story content of the book itself. You can just sell a book based on a really, really good looking cover, And I've drawn covers where, let's say I've drawn a cover for Scorched, and I had one of my favorite covers I drew for the Scorched was She-Spawn, Gunslinger, and Medieval Spawn battling a horde of demons in hell. And it's one of my favorite covers that I've ever drawn. And there was no plan other than to make it look cool, but the issue itself doesn't take place in hell, and that scene doesn't happen. But that didn't change the fact that the people who bought the book still liked the book and liked the cover. So that's the kind of fun part about comics, is that you don't need to be massively committed to the rules all the time. You can just have fun too. Great.
Do you remember how I'm just gonna kind of digress into a different question that you brought, and I've always wanted to know the origin, I guess, story of how did Todd reach out to you, and what was that conversation like, and what did you feel, and I guess, are you able to kind of recall that story?
Well, I can, but ultimately, as best as I can and as politely as I can, it was a private conversation between myself and Todd. So I'm not gonna share every detail about it. But ultimately, what happened was I got contacted, and I did some tests. It was surreal. At first, I thought it was fake. At first I thought it was a troll account, because I used to get loads of those. I used to get loads of silly troll accounts who would try to get commissions and all that kind of crap. But I got a message that said your artwork is cool and it might look good on some Spawn stuff. So if you give me your email or XYZ. And so we just started talking, basically. Just started to talk and kind of get a feel for how each other worked and, you know, how I operated. Like, I was very hungry at that point in my career. I was very, very hungry to get my foot into America and to make a name for myself in America. And, you know, Todd gave me a lot of freedom to kind of play around with character designs and just have fun with what was, you know, put in front of me. And I stuck the landing. You know, I was able to get some work on the first issue of Gunslinger that came out way back in 2021, I think, at the start of 2021. And then, you know, getting to do covers across all the titles, getting to draw, like, for me, Haunt was the character that brought me back. I always loved Spawn, but it was Haunt that, you know, reawakened my urge to make comics again. And getting to draw Haunt for a cover, and then, you know, drawing a couple of other covers then for specific characters and specific things that I just felt would be cool. Like, I mean, I remember when Raven Spawn was introduced to the story years and years and years ago. And I have always said, like, I'd love to draw that guy. And so, you know, I drew Raven Spawn, and it was used to promote the McFarlane production, Todd McFarlane Productions page on Instagram and Twitter. They put up a time lapse of me drawing it, so that was surreal. The whole experience was crazy, and again, just not really real. Again, it was the equivalent to if a wrestling fan met Ric Flair or met Vince McMahon or you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was just crazy to me that I'm talking to Todd McFarlane. You know, I mean, I grew up, and again, I'm not a fanboy. I want to be very clear in saying that. Like, I'm not a fanboy. I'm not one of these people that loses their mind if I meet a celebrity or somebody with, you know, with a name, because my mother worked in theater, so I always used to meet famous people from time to time. So I from a young age, have always known, you know, don't do the fucking slack-jawed lunatic who can't contain their emotions. That's not going to go well for you. You know, be a human being, you know, speak to them like they're people and have fun and be cool. And that's one thing that just stuck out to me, was that, you know, Todd was just so regular and cool. He was just, you know, he was easy to talk to, and he was easy to work with and fun, you know. So it was surreal, because, you know, for years you get this idea in your head of what it might be like to work at this level and to meet your idols, and, you know, hopefully they're not assholes. And in this instance, that was exactly that. It was an extremely pleasant interaction, an extremely nice interaction that then led to good work. So I think to a certain degree everybody won. You know, I think obviously there are certain things that I wish I could have done better earlier. You know, like, I was still, I mean, you can't imagine how nerve-wracking it is to then all of a sudden be going from drawing your own comic books here at home with no real, let's say, no real pressure. You know, all your only pressure is you got to get it done so that it goes out to publication. But now all of a sudden I'm drawing for Todd. So that was daunting. So there was times there where I maybe overdrew things or lent too heavily into a certain thing. And, you know, now with the way I'm drawing Spawn, I'm just having a lot more fun with him, which is what Todd initially wanted from me. So it took me a while to kind of get comfortable, again, because there's a lot of anticipation and a lot of personal history attached to my feelings towards Spawn. I've always been a very big fan of it. So, you know, sometimes when you get over eager, you can make mistakes and you can draw things maybe not as good as you wish you did. Like, there are certain panels that I've drawn where I look back and go, fuck, I could have done that better. But there's a method to drawing comic books that is very important for people to learn young, or learn early, which is done, not perfect. And that's a very important rule to learn early on. So get it done. Is it perfect? No, it's probably never going to be. Just get it done, and get it done to a high level if you can. And so that's one thing I loved immediately from working with Todd right away, was he didn't expect it to be perfect. He just wanted it to be good. And it took me a little while to kind of get my art there because I'm a perfectionist. Like, it's that simple. I love putting my best foot forward. But at the same time, it's you're drawing for Spawn, for God knows how many people are going to read it, so you want it to be the best it can be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way that we take it in our work is that unconscious competence. You know what I mean? Just to be ready.
Yeah. That's a very, very, very good way of putting it.
To be able to kind of like you said, is it perfect? No. However, can you do it if he wakes you up in the middle of the night? And can you do it? Are you able to give him what he wants in the middle of the night? That is an unconscious competence
Absolutely.
that everybody tries to strive for in their profession.
Yes, absolutely. So, like, I kind of look at it from the perspective of somebody who's always ready. And, like, I'm not as established as, let's say, like, Brett Booth or Javier Fernandez, who work on the other stories. They've done work on Marvel and DC down through the years. And, they've, like, I mean, look, Brett Booth was working for Image when I was 2. So I'm never going to be as established as Brett in terms of, career longevity. Maybe after he retires, maybe. But, realistically speaking, I can't compete with a guy like Brett because, he's got so many more years of experience over me, and I don't really want to either. But what I do know is that if Brett wasn't able to do a particular page, or if Brett was, if something, life happens, life gets in the way. If he had to go somewhere or do something, or if Todd needed somebody in a pinch, I'd be there. That's the way I looked at it from the point of view of, right, if Brett's his guy, or Javier's his guy, or Steven Segovia, who draws the Scorch, these guys they're well established for a reason. It's because they're amazing. They're phenomenal artists. So my whole prerogative when I started doing work for Todd as somebody less established is, if either of any of his guys have to do real life stuff, or they get busy and have to take a break, or they have to do anything like this, then I'll be there to pick up the slack until they get back, and then, slowly but surely get myself to a place where, I'm now as reliable as they are. And I'd like to think I am, but, the reality is that these guys have maybe 10 years more experience, so I can't be, but I'm getting there, and I'm committed to getting there. So, it's like you say, it's unconscious competence. It's just making sure that 24 hours a day, I'm good to go. If Todd needs me, I'll be there. That's simple. Because that's what I wanted from a very young age. I remember all the way back at maybe 9 or 10, seeing Spawn for the first time and going, damn, like, that's a hard character to draw. Okay, I want to draw that guy. That was my first look at things, let's say.
Love it.
And I think we're good.
Wow.
Yeah?
I think we're there.
Think we're there?
I think
It
we're
Would you consider sending a print to the person that wins the 1-of-1 auction?
I'm pretty sure we could get it done. Yeah, we could. I'd have to organize it with the people that I make prints with, but I can definitely. Look, Remy, if you want to shoot me a message about that, we can definitely try to do something.
That'd be sweet. Heck yeah.
I like rewarding people.
Yeah, we can definitely. That'd be sweet. 1-of-1 print with the 1-of-1 digital collectible.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much again for your time. That was like 3 hours of just awesome drawing.
I said this time around because I had to cancel on you last week because some stuff came up that just completely screwed over my plans. So I said this time around I was gonna make sure that you guys got a nice session.
Appreciate it. And it was all recorded, so if people missed the beginning or want to go back and look at it, we have it up on YouTube, or we will have it up on YouTube, and this piece will be auctioned off to one of you guys. I'm sure many people are already thinking how much they're wanting to spend on this.
My immediate reaction was Dr. Evil when he said how much they want to spend.
Really?
$1 billion. I don't know why. I'm a fucking weirdo. And I've been drawing for 3 hours while chatting, so maybe that's got something to do with it.
Mike Myers movies are the most quotable movies ever made. So
Easily. I was raised on a steady diet of Wayne's World. So
Wayne's World. Yeah, I even know what that is. I was for Wayne and Garth from 4th grade.
I'll have the cream of some young guy. It's just man. I was only last night
East.
quoting Goldmember for the better part of an hour and a half. I damn near drove my partner insane.
I don't own a gun, let alone many guns that would necessitate a gun rack.
That's outstanding. I went right before I go. I'm gonna tell a funny story and then I'll leave.
All right.
Okay, so I went to Switzerland for 24 hours for my 22nd or my 21st birthday.
Huh?
My brother lives in Switzerland and he and I hadn't hung out together in about maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years at that point. And he invited me over because Megadeth were playing like four doors down from where he lived. And I'm not the biggest Megadeth fan, but I said, fuck it, why not? So, now bear in mind, I was moving to California 2 days later.
Oh.
So, it was actually, I'm just going to do one thing while I'm talking. I'm just going to add some craziness here. Just bear with me. But I was moving to California like a day and a half after getting back from Switzerland. So, this was pure madness, but it's all going to make sense in a second in the context of Mike Myers. So, we're walking from Megadeth to a nightclub at like 2:30 in the morning, and we're hammered drunk. Like we're just hammered because it's Switzerland and it's a metal concert, so everybody's drinking beer all night. Like it's just madness. And we're heading back to this like underground nightclub where it's going to be mental. And when I got in the door, like you just visualize it. It's like imagine like your cliched John Wick nightclub, like
Yeah.
pumping loud music with like deep red and deep green lights, and it's just like your classic European session,
Yeah.
And I just launched into, and I didn't even stop when people tried to talk over me. I just launched into Del Preston's story of him getting the 5,000 brown M&Ms for Ozzy, where he had to beat a shopkeeper to death with their own shoes. If you're not familiar with that story, I can recite the whole thing from start to finish in his accent.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, Del Preston. Just look up Del Preston on YouTube.
All right, Del Preston.
And just imagine.
I got Ellie G queued up and now Del Preston or Ali G.
Ali G and Del Preston. Right. He tells the story where he was a roadie for Ozzy Osbourne. And he tells the story of how Ozzy was refusing to go on stage unless somebody had gotten him a brandy glass full of 5,000 brown M&Ms. And the story it's madness that he's telling the story in the middle of like a fucking, I don't know, it's like a hockey themed cafe that they're in. No, just check it out. I'm doing it no justice now. I'm actually killing the story, but
yeah.
But yeah, check that one out. So and then what you do is just imagine an absolutely pissed out Irish guy in the middle of a nightclub in Switzerland, belligerently telling the story to everybody who won't listen to him.
Listen to me. It's like
even if they weren't.
Well, they're not going to want to listen to you.
I'm just going to sign this.
Oh yeah, good old John Hancock.
And one last touch, just to really hammer home my bullshit.
Boom. Wow.
Rock and roll, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Kevin. I hope you have a great Saturday night, and I'm looking forward to having you on again in the future, and we'll keep in touch. And
absolutely, dude. Anytime.
Sweet. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I know today or wherever the time zone you're in. And appreciate you guys spending your Saturdays with us, and we'll see you next time.